All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Come on, turn the radio on. It's Saturday and I won't be long.
Don't get me wrong, I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom. It is Anchor Man, not Anchor Lady.
What do you want from me? I'm not America's sweetheart.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
I'm not America's sweetheart.
This is the Annie-Frey Show. Welcome to the Annie-Frey Show. Brad Young back. I'm shocked that I'm allowed to actually come back today. I was in on Tuesday. We had a great day, and for some unknown reason, I got asked to come back again today. But of course, I want to welcome Ryan Wiggins. Good to talk to you, sir.
Yes, of course.
And Mr. Brad Range. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
And one of the things in the fallout of the Trump indictment and arraignment, and now the criminal case, in the fallout of that, I think one of the major downsides of all of this, in addition to the problems with the prosecution and the targeting of political opponents and the weaponization of the district attorney's office, but one of the other things that's far more subtle is that because anything with Trump takes up 100% of the news cycle, so many other things that warrant discussion, that need to be discussed, get just squelched because there's only so much time to talk about stuff, and all we're doing is talking about Trump 24/7. Have you guys noticed that?
Well, especially Tuesday, because it was Election Day, and that was the same day as the arrest is happening.
Yep.
And so, as much as we were talking about, go vote, you just had to. We're watching the former president going into the New York courthouse for arrest and arraignment and indictment all at the same time. It's like you have to cover it. You have to talk about that. But Brad did a segment the other day. This Brad, not you, Brad.
Pointing is so good on radio.
It
by
helps,
the way,
doesn't it?
Pointing helps a lot on radio.
Ryan's used to TV. He's been in the industry for...
Yeah, that's what. In TV, you just point, and everybody knows what you're doing.
Exactly.
But Brad Range did a segment yesterday, exactly what you're talking about the news that we've missed in the last couple days, and it's been pretty extensive.
And I even thought of more stories on my way home. It's like, holy cow, we didn't talk about OPEC cutting production and stuff like that.
Well, at the risk of being redundant and repetitive, I hope you guys didn't talk about yesterday this new Washington, D.C. law that's gone into effect that allows illegal aliens to vote. Have you heard about this?
No, I've heard of things like it. I'm surprised it's coming back again, though.
Well, there was one in New York last year, and I'll draw some comparisons to that. But this law was passed in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and it went into effect this week. And it allows anyone to vote in an election, whether you're a citizen of the United States or not. Under this rule, anyone who qualifies as a permanent resident of the District of Columbia, they can vote in any local race. They can't go and vote for national stuff, but they can vote for mayor. They can vote for the D.C. City Council. They can even vote for, and this is kind of funny, but Washington, D.C. has an attorney general because they want to act like they're a state, which, again, as you thank God for all of your blessings, make sure you include that Washington, D.C. is not a state. Yeah. But anyone who can vote. But this is what's amazing to me is we talk about illegal immigration. We talk about the problems at the border. If you mention that the left is in favor of illegal immigration in order to increase the number of Democrat voters, you're all of a sudden accused of being a racist. But isn't that exactly what's happening in our nation's capital by letting anybody vote?
What's crazy is that because of everybody in the world knows that we have no southern border right now. Everybody in the world knows that. So you know what else has become a problem now? The northern border. Is that racist? I don't think so, but it's becoming a problem just the same as the southern border. Now, not to the same extent, but more than it ever has
Getting
before,
worse.
Comparatively. And it's amazing that one problem causes another problem because they know they're not fixing those problems.
Sure. So as I'm pondering this idea about the Washington, D.C. allowing anyone to vote, two things come to mind. First of all, let this sink in. The way that Washington, D.C. has this rule phrased is that if you're a permanent resident of the District of Columbia, you can vote. That would necessarily include the entire staff of the Chinese consulate.
Amazing.
So,
amazing.
Because all of those bureaucrats that are here from China, all the bureaucrats that are here from Russia, all the bureaucrats that are here from Cuba, I mean, pick some sort of a country, well, maybe not Cuba, but pick some country with whom we have diplomatic relations that's a socialist regime. Some of the banana republics in Central America, those are permanent residents because they live on the grounds and around the embassies. They can now vote in Washington, D.C.
They don't care about these people. They're just adding votes. If they could break the law, this is supposed to be the law and order party that is no one's above the law party.
Exactly.
But if they could find some way to make it to where if you identified, like if I decided tomorrow, I don't just identify as Ryan Wiggins, I also identify as Tom Smith. I am two people. They would say, you know what? Who am I to say that your identity doesn't count? You identify as two people, so you should be able to vote twice. This is the kind of stuff that we're getting into when you're just redefining words. You're changing the meaning of anything for the sake of your own power. That is terrible. It's a precedent that they're crossing over and over and over in the last few years.
Exactly. It's crazy. I was just thinking there used to be a commercial. It was a credit card commercial, and it was a commercial trying to say if you use our credit card, we'll protect you from identity theft. And this is when Emmitt Smith was a big deal. He was a football player. So they had all these people saying, I am Emmitt Smith. I am Emmitt Smith.
I remember that.
Right? And then Emmitt Smith comes in and goes, please, I'm Emmitt Smith. Come on.
Yeah.
And then the idea was use this credit card. But under your theory, we can self-identify as anyone and can. And that's certainly where we're moving. But another thing occurred to me. There's actually a policy reason why you don't want illegal aliens voting. There's a very good policy reason. And the policy reason is what I call the cat hoarder doctrine. Now, what do I mean by that? If you've got a government position that determines how many pets each home should be allowed to have, you don't want the director of that position to be a cat hoarder lady who wears a muumuu and owns 47 cats. Why? Because if she determines how many pets are to be living in the homes, everybody's going to be allowed to have unlimited pets, which of course is bad for the pets, right? Because it's not like cat hoarders are taking good care of their pets. They're awful. They're terrible. The pets are kept in squalor, and it's animal abuse. But my goodness, that lady wearing the muumuu is going to go get 5 more cats tomorrow, and you don't want her deciding how many pets people should be allowed to have. That's really what we've got when you've got people who are living in an area illegally, and you're allowing them to vote on people who make the laws. You don't want lawbreakers. That's why felons don't get to vote, because you don't want inherent lawbreakers to vote on what the law will be. And that's the situation you have in our illustrious nation's capital when you just allow anybody who shows up there for a while to vote for every elected official in the city of Washington, D.C. It's truly insanity.
You know, the precedent that they're setting is more important here because it's not really going to change politics in D.C. You're already talking about a 85% Democrat city or something like that. So it's not going to change who gets elected in Washington, D.C. But anybody who wants to pass that and say New York brings it back up, New York could then go, well, it's legal in D.C. now. And it sets that precedent, which you probably know all about, Brad.
Don't forget about this. What's the other big push on the left?
D.C. statehood.
D.C. statehood. So now you will have non-citizens voting in state elections if they get their way as far as D.C. statehood goes, which I'm completely against because D.C. was never meant to be a state.
No, in fact, it was designed not to be a state.
Right. Intentionally.
Intentionally designed not to be a state. So to do so now it is an exact opposite of the intention for creating the District of Columbia. It was pulled out of other states for a reason. But you mentioned New York. New York tried this, I think it was in 2021 when New York tried it. And they passed this law that said if you live in the city, New York City, you can vote for any municipal elections. And thankfully, that got stricken down because at least under the New York State Constitution, it does require, it uses the word citizen. And there's a definition of what citizen means. And so it was struck down. Now, I don't know whether this could be struck down in Washington, D.C. or not. Thankfully, it's being challenged, and we'll find out in a court of law. And when we were talking the other day, actually, it was on Tuesday, we were talking about one of the things that we've seen the progression of legalized challenges to trampling on our civil rights. It used to be just the left that did that, and the right now has learned we can use the court system to further civil rights in a way that only the left used to do. Mm-hmm. And here's another good example of it, because now you're going to have litigation filed to say you can't allow non-citizens to vote. It's counterintuitive. It's probably against the law, and we're going to get a court ruling on this hopefully within the next year, just like we did in New York, and I'm certainly hoping for the same outcome.
Well, I think that we should then double down if they do get this passed, though, and do like I was saying before. If you identify as multiple people, you should be counted as multiple people, but only in states like Alabama and Idaho, because those are, a little bit more red states. Yeah. So I think that's a counterintuitive.
I have an uncle who identifies as several people at the same time. It's very interesting. He's popular at parties. Give him a couple of drinks. Oh my goodness, yeah, and you can have multiple conversations.
I would think pretty much anywhere he went was a party.
It is a party, exactly. Exactly. No, I just made that up. But
your uncle's like, hey, wait a second.
Hey.
Whoa.
Everybody's got an uncle like that.
Everybody's got an uncle. You know what? I just don't want to be that uncle, is what I don't want to be. I don't want somebody saying, not only do we have an uncle, but Brad, you're the uncle we talk about.
Well, I know that this is going to come as a shock, but all three voices you're hearing right now, they're actually yours, Brad.
No, yeah.
But you're really talented.
Let me get some more meds going here, and we'll get this fixed. But one of the other stories, and I mentioned that so many stories get buried because of the Trump situation. One of the other stories that got buried is that on Tuesday, Finland joined NATO, and to me that is an amazing turn of events, because Putin invades Ukraine because he says that NATO is too powerful, and strictly, solely, and exclusively because he invades Ukraine, NATO actually expands.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
He created the problem that he was complaining about to begin with, which is enormously ironic.
That whole situation never made sense to me. I know that they wanted a buffer state in between them and NATO, so what their plan was to expand their territory closer to NATO. I mean, that's what invading Ukraine would have done.
Sure.
I mean, it probably would have been a puppet government or whatever.
Of course it was.
There.
Of course.
But, I mean, it's essentially, this is not the Soviet Union, but Russia on the border of NATO states. It's just, I don't know. I don't buy that. I think it was more about, I think it was more economic reasons. Russia basically exports fossil fuels, and that's what they do. And if you go to a place like Ukraine, well, Ukraine has
agriculture,
and they can, expand in that manner.
Yeah.
So.
The other thing too is trying to link Crimea with the Russian homeland, because Ukraine was in the way, and so by taking over Ukraine, then you link it, and you have a contiguous swath of land going from Russia all the way to the Black Sea, and it would certainly be better for naval purposes, for military purposes, and agriculture purposes. Yeah, there was a lot of benefits to this, and I think all of the talk about NATO is just pretext, meaning this isn't our real reason, but this is what we're going to say publicly. But it's ironic that because of their actions, they brought about the very thing that they claimed they were fighting against, which was an expansive NATO.
Yeah, and this is not an issue we talk about outside of maybe with Jim Carafano and some experts a whole lot. Just, we don't just sit here and discuss this one a lot. One of the things that should be noted is just how embarrassing this has been for Russia. This has been unbelievable for what was supposed to be a world power to not be able to take Ukraine. I mean, that is underreported.
I mean, if you think back to whenever things were building up to it, and we were like, "There's no way they want to do this," but we all thought this is going to be fast.
Yeah, and here it is over a year later.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking days. Kyiv would fall, and
Right.
then, whatever. So much so to the point that the Biden administration offered Zelensky a ride out.
Yeah,
I don't know if
sure.
you remember that.
Oh, absolutely.
And he's like, no, we're going to stay and fight. And holy cow, have they fought.
Yes, they have, and I'm certainly glad that we're giving them the bullets to fight back. Hey, speaking of national security issues, coming up after the break, we're going to talk to Cully Stimson. He's with the Heritage Foundation, and we're going to talk to him about the War Powers Act, about who actually gets to decide whether we go to war or not, and should it rest with Congress like it's specified in the Constitution, or should it be with the presidency as it has evolved over the last decades, which is counter to our Constitution? We'll talk to Cully Stimson with the Heritage Foundation next. This is the Annie Frey Show. Brad Young sitting in today. We'll be right back on 97.1 FM Talk.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show on St. Louis's home for conservative talk. Follow Annie on Twitter @Annie Frey Show.
AirComfortService.com is the website for you to go check out how to get the insulation in your home improved. Go to AirComfortService.com/insulation for those details. Also, as spring is upon us, if you are looking for an opportunity to replace your HVAC system, I want to tell you about a great opportunity for you to save. Call Air Comfort Service and ask about their hybrid HVAC system bundle. For a limited time, you're going to be able to save $7,500 in manufacturer and utility rebates and tax credits on a hybrid HVAC system. Air Comfort Service is always looking to pair you with the best rebates that are available to get you the best price, and it comes with the best service. Air Comfort Service is exactly who you've been looking for to trust your HVAC system home in their hands so that you always get to stay in your comfort zone. If you go with that hybrid system, you can bundle your new hybrid system with attic insulation and save an additional 20%. Air Comfort Service is waiting for your phone call, 314-513-0091. Mention the Annie Frey Show when you give them a ring. Find them online at aircomfortservice.com.
If you're a business owner, are you feeling the pressures of running your business? There's a limit to what you can do and still keep employees engaged. Insperity brings 30-plus years of HR experience to help you with hiring, training, HR administration, and compliance while giving your employees competitive benefit options. You're able to focus on other priorities. Your employees can thrive and your business can grow. With Insperity, nothing seems impossible. Full-service HR, employee benefits, HR technology. Insperity, HR that makes a difference.
If you're looking at new windows for your house, choose wisely. Mark Cox here for my friends at Window World. You want to go with a company you can trust. Ranked #1 in the number of windows sold in the country. That's according to Qualified Remodeler magazine. In just over 20 years in business, they've improved the look and obviously the thermal efficiency of over 70,000 customers in St. Louis. They're going to give you a lifetime warranty that covers all the parts and the glass breakage and the labor. It's a good product. Call them at 314-993-1800 for your free estimate. That's 314-993-1800. Window World won the Good Housekeeping Seal of Approval. That's not easy. They rely on the expertise of their in-house engineers and their analysts and their product experts to give that seal of approval. That should matter to you as well. Call for your free estimate right now. Simply the best for less at Window World. 314-993-1800. WindowWorld.com.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-700-6898. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-700-6898. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-700-6898. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds, too. Call 800-700-6898. 800-700-6898.
Who will dare to find a new way to think about energy? One that connects our lives like never before and creates a world where we can breathe easy. NewScale dared. by making 24/7 carbon-free energy a reality with our Voyager SMR power plants. Let's see how bright the future can be when cleaner, safer energy is available to all. NewScale. Power to the world. Power for all humankind. Discover the future of energy at newscalepower.com.
Are you thankful for the first responders in your community? Then nominate a local department and let us feed them a great meal. Compliments of Grill Master Tony Stone. Mark Cox here. Visit 971talk.com/contests and nominate someone today.
The Annie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. Brad Young sitting in with you today. And as I mentioned before the break, we certainly live in a world right now that's got a lot of foreign policy issues. We see wars going on in Europe. We see the potential for war in Asia. We've got flashpoints across the globe. And the issue becomes who and which branch of government should really be the driving force between in terms of whether and determining whether we go to war or not. So in order to answer that question, I wanted to reach out to Charles Cully Stimson. He's with the Heritage Foundation. He's actually a senior legal fellow and deputy director at the Mies Center there. Cully Stimson, great to talk to you again, and welcome to 97.1 FM Talk. Uh-oh. Cully, are you still there? Well, we're going to try to see if we can get reconnected with Cully Stimson. And while we're working on that, let's see. Brad Range, you still working on trying to get in touch with him?
Yep, I'll work on that right now.
Okay, great. Because one of the things that we just learned, speaking of national security issues, one of the things that we just learned, I believe it was on Tuesday, was that this Chinese spy balloon, you remember we had that spy balloon that was moving across the country earlier this year. We learned that contrary to what President Biden told us, he told us specifically, and I remember the sound bites from this as if it were yesterday, saying that this spy balloon wasn't going to get any information, that we had isolated what it could obtain, and it got no actionable information. Well, NBC reported on Tuesday the exact opposite, that in fact the Chinese spy balloon did obtain information. It did relay that information back to China, and it raises a host of other issues. For example, if the Biden administration knew about this Chinese balloon, why didn't they shoot it down sooner? They claimed, well, we don't want to harm anyone by shooting it down, and yet it was over Montana. I mean, who are you going to harm if you shoot down a balloon over Montana? Nobody. And why did we have to fire missiles to shoot it down? You know, many of our aircraft have machine gun capabilities. For example, even the F-35 does. And they could have shot the balloon with a couple of holes, allowed it to come down gently, and by coming down gently, you could have actually preserved more of the equipment and kept it from being destroyed, instead of waiting until it literally flew across the entire United States. And then we shot it down over the coast of, or off the coast of South Carolina, where it fell into the water. So how much damage was sustained to that equipment when it was shot down over the ocean, where it could have been just shot down over a landmass, but not by exploding the balloon, but simply putting some holes in it with some gunfire and allowing it to come down more gently? These are questions, and these are national security issues that truly impact our country. But the problem becomes, and this is why we're still going to try to reach out to Charles Stimson at the Heritage Foundation, the problem becomes, it's actually a multifaceted issue. For example, one issue is, what does our Constitution say about it? The other issue is, how do we practically implement what the Constitution says? So to break down these issues, I think we've got our tech issues resolved. I want to try again to welcome Charles Cully Stimson from the Heritage Foundation. Welcome to 97.1 FM Talk.
Thanks for having me.
Sure, and I apologize for our technical issues here, but I'm glad we got you. And one of the things, as I was setting up our discussion here this afternoon, I was discussing the constitutional issues and the practical issues with regard to who gets to declare war in this country. And what made me think of this was just last week, the Senate voted overwhelmingly, and it was truly a bipartisan vote, to repeal the obsolete 1991 and 2002 Iraq authorization use of military force resolutions. First of all, what was behind that vote? Was it the proper vote to take? And how should the House of Representatives follow up on that historic Senate vote?
Well, I really appreciate you bringing up the topic because I've been writing about it for years, testifying in front of the House and Senate on it, and I have a Daily Signal piece up on it saying that it's time for the House to reclaim their war powers. And as you know, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11 of the Constitution is the declare war clause. The Congress has the plenary authority under the Constitution to declare war, but the president, as the commander-in-chief, has to prosecute the war. So the Congress has declared war 11 times in 5 conflicts, but they've authorized the use of military force, or AUMF, over 40 times. And every single one of those war declarations and AUMFs has been repealed by the Congress when they're used up and over with, except for 3. And the 3 are the 91 and the 2002 Iraq AUMF. 91 was to kick Saddam out of Kuwait. 2002 was to eliminate Saddam and the threat that was posed by Iraq. And then, of course, the one that we only use now is the 2001 post 9/11 AUMF, which we use to go after Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, ISIS, and associated forces. And so since we've used up and no longer need the 91 and 2002 Iraq AUMFs, the Senate, as you said, voted 66-30 to finally repeal that. Now the ball is in the House's court. And if they don't do anything about it, I think, and as I wrote, sends a bad message to folks around the world that Congress isn't serious about either flexing their declare war clause muscles or retracting those that are used up. And with China and the other bad actors around the world flexing their muscles, Congress needs to get back in the game.
Well, one of the questions I want to get to, because I wholeheartedly agree with you on this topic, but what are the potential dangers? In other words, if someone's listening right now and they think, so what? What does it really matter? And I don't know that this is something that really needs congressional approval. But what is the downside when you have a Congress that has the constitutional authority to declare war, and there's these authorization of military forces that are out there without being taken back from the president? What's the potential downside and the dangers that can happen here if Congress does not act?
Yeah, great question. As you know, we enjoy, which makes us unique, a separation of powers between the 3 co-equal branches of government. It's an exquisite design. It protects individuals and individual liberties against the government. And so when Congress has the authority to declare war, and only Congress does, and the president can only prosecute the war, by not doing their job, by repealing these war powers that are no longer necessary nor relied upon by this president, or for the most part, the past president, they're ceding power. They're leeching power over to the executive branch, and every chief executive of this country has used the military for actions overseas, with or without declarations of war or AUMFs. And this president is seen as frail and weak by many people around the world and by leaders around the world. And why would this Congress want to send a message that this president gets to have more power and, I would say, create a further imbalance or lack of equipoise between the executive branch and the legislative branch? So they got to get back in the game and resettle the equal playing ground here between the 2 co-equal branches of government.
And it's interesting that you've written about this, we're talking about this, but just today, Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy is meeting with the president of Taiwan. And of course, the Chinese government is saying that this is an outrage. They're going to conduct drills around Taiwan. I'm thinking, well, when did you ever stop? That's an empty threat. You're doing it all the time anyway. You fly your aircraft in a dangerous fashion. You threaten freedom of naval operations, freedom of the open seas operations around Taiwan and in the Strait. So you're doing this all the time. I don't know how it could get any worse. But I guess my question, though, is this. Isn't this a perfect time for Congress to reassert its constitutional authority in the presence of a very weak president, and because we have Kevin McCarthy right now meeting with the president of Taiwan?
Absolutely, it's the right time. It's past time for them to do that, in part because this administration and the previous administration didn't even rely on the 2002 Iraq AUMF except for the Soleimani strike, and that was a secondary authority. The president had this authority under Article 2 as the president, commander-in-chief, to conduct that strike in the first place in an act of inherent self-defense. And, yeah, I mean, notice we didn't have a hissy fit and threaten things when the president of China and the president of Russia met. That's
Exactly.
what happens between sovereign countries. Yet China knows that we know that they want Taiwan back. They've said it for years. It's been talked about since the Nixon administration. And so Congress needs to flex its muscles and do its constitutional duty and reclaim the war powers that are no longer being used as a way of saying to other bad actors, and by the way, we will use our war powers affirmatively if we need to in the future. And I think that's the message that they should be sending.
We're talking, of course, we're talking here to Charles Cully Stimson. He's with the Heritage Foundation. He writes frequently on these types of issues, and he's also a senior legal fellow and deputy director of the Meese Center at the Heritage Foundation. Now, one of the arguments against what we're discussing here, and I want to highlight this because I disagree with this position, but Ted Cruz has taken the position that if we repeal these authorizations for military force, it could be used as an excuse by the Biden administration to essentially do nothing. For example, if Iran attacked and murdered American soldiers or took more assertive military action in Africa against our national interests, that this could be an excuse for Biden to do nothing. But that's simply untrue, isn't it?
Well, I respect Senator Cruz immensely. And in the interest of full disclosure, I was on one of his advisors on his presidential campaign in the last cycle. But I think, with all due respect to Ted, what he was really trying to do is to try to say, look, the president under Article 2 has all the authority he needs, and by repealing these things, this gives this president a pass. And I think the point I made earlier about Congress needing to get back in the game is more important than whether we give this president a pass or not, because he's going to do what he wants to do anyway.
Exactly, because legally speaking, under the Constitution, as the commander-in-chief, the president can take and respond to any immediate military crisis. And if a use of authorization, rather, of military force is withdrawn, legally, that doesn't inhibit in any way the president from responding to some military crisis involving Iran, does it?
Correct. And in fact, if you look back at the oath of the president has to take, which is contained in the Constitution, it's not that he can do it. He has a duty under the Constitution to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, and that includes the American people. So this president and the next presidents in the future have ample authority, capacious authority under Article 2 to defend this country against imminent attack or threats overseas. And remember, when you repeal this 91 and 2002 Iraq AUMF, you still have the 2001 post 9/11 AUMF on the books. And that is the only one being used for the detention of enemy combatants at Gitmo, for our military strikes overseas, and it can be used against al-Qaeda and is being used against al-Qaeda, Taliban, and ISIS and associated forces around the globe where they pose a threat. So this does not disarm us. This does not hinder or do anything to lessen our ability to protect our vital interests. And it also complies with the law of war and the law of armed conflict. So this is basically, as I've been writing, an act of congressional hygiene, but also it gets this Congress, which is more than happy to punt on all sorts of things to the executive branch, back in the game and speaking very loudly. And by the way, most members of the House and Senate, there's 535 of them, didn't even have a say because they weren't even in Congress in 1991, and only a few dozen of them were in office and had a vote in 2002. So most of them, especially their staffs, have never even had to debate this openly. So they need to do that.
Yes, they do, and they need to reassert their constitutional authority, particularly in light of the weakness of this president when it comes to foreign policy issues with China. Cully Stimson, you're with the Heritage Foundation. If folks want to continue to follow what you write on this topic, as well as many others, how can people find you online?
Well, they can just go to heritage.org and look up my name, or they can find me on Twitter at Cully Stimson, or they can check out my new book that I wrote with Zach Smith on rogue prosecutors, which right now is the #1 book on Amazon on crime. And this is about the Soros bought and paid for pro-criminal anti-victim zealots that are out there, including an entire chapter on Alvin Bragg.
What? You mean there's rogue prosecutors out there? We had no idea.
I know, I'm glad you're sitting down.
Cully Stimson, it's great to talk to you. Thanks for joining us this afternoon on 97.1 FM Talk.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to talk to you. Hey, we've got a lot more here. We're going to take a break. Come right back. This is the Annie Frey Show. Brad Young sitting in this afternoon. Thanks for sticking around on 97.1 FM Talk.
This is the Annie Frey Show. Interact with Annie on Facebook. The Annie Frey Show.
Hi, this is Brian with Velocity Home Buyers, and I buy houses cash. If you own a house and want to sell it fast at a fair price, call me at 314-782-3333. I can pay cash and close in as little as 7 days. I buy houses in any condition and any price range in the St. Louis area. I'm a private real estate investor who buys several houses a month, and I want to buy more. I buy inherited houses, divorce houses, behind in payment houses. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. Do you own a house that needs updating, but you don't have the time or money for it? Great, because I love buying outdated houses. I buy vacant houses, job relocation houses, and foreclosure houses. If you own a house and want to sell it fast, call me at 314-782-3333. That's 314-782-3333.
So a cycle for Nolan Arenado. How about that?
The Cardinals host the Pirates the weekend of April 14th through the 16th. Then on Friday night, 25,000 fans age 16 and over get a Nolan Arenado cycle bobblehead. Where were you on July 1st when Nato hit for the cycle? Now you can add that moment in history to your bobblehead collection thanks to Coca-Cola and Walmart. That's Friday, April 14th. Get your tickets at cardinals.com.
This is Nolan Arenado. See you at the ballpark.
I'll be there for you, and on Friday, April 14th, we hope you'll be there too. It's Friends Night at the ballpark.
Pivot, 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 pivot.
Down to Busch Stadium to see the Cardinals host the Pirates. With the purchase of a special themed ticket, fans will take home their own Friends fleece blanket. Come early for a pregame concert of 90s hits from Proud Larry. That's Friday, April 14th. Friends Night at the ballpark. For tickets or more details, visit cardinals.com/theme.
The Med Spa at the Institute of Natural Health understands how difficult it is to maintain healthy skin and how much this can affect someone's life. With the right combination of treatments and products, they can help you keep your skin looking healthy and more youthful, while also reducing and preventing damage. Take your first step towards healthy skin at the Med Spa at the Institute of Natural Health. Visit them at inhstl.com or call to schedule at 314-293-8123. That's 314-293-8123.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Save up to $7,500 on a new hybrid HVAC system and save an additional 20% when bundled with attic insulation. This is a limited time offer. For details and a free estimate, visit aircomfortservice.com.
St. Louis's home for conservative talk.
Awesome. That's what I'm talking about.
97.1 FM Talk.
I look forward to hearing the station all day.
Everyone is welcome.
Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you, Bermuda, Bahama.
The Annie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. Ryan Wiggins is dancing in the studio. Hey, Ryan, no, not on the table, Ryan. Step down from the table. Okay.
You ever seen Coyote Ugly?
I think
That's
I'm
what
looking
the
at
studio
it.
is right now.
Oh, I think I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not getting out dollar bills no matter what you tell me. No matter what you tell me.
Went down.
Ryan's like, I'll take quarters.
It's not going to happen.
I was just doing hardcore hip thrust into the camera.
Yeah, great.
And you said our viewership went down?
Yeah, it went down.
I am
plummeted.
shocked.
I'm shocked. Hey,
shocked.
speaking of YouTube, we've got a poll going on right now on YouTube, and that is: should Donald Trump's trial be televised? Yes or no? And Brad Range, how do you vote for this? What do you got to do?
You go to our YouTube page. You just search anniefrey on YouTube, and when you go into the chat, the answers or the poll question will be right there for you. Just click yes or click no. But then we want you to comment in the chat. We want to know why you voted yes or why you voted no. So let us know.
And I got to tell you, I'm torn by this because when I've got my attorney hat on, I'm thinking how atrocious it is when cameras are in the courtroom, because we even saw this with the Gwyneth Paltrow. The camera was on her. The cameraman was just checking out Gwyneth Paltrow, and then people were playing to the cameras, and it really detracts from the point of a trial, which is the administration of justice. So I'm torn between that perspective and the other perspective, which would be, my goodness, wouldn't it be so entertaining to see a Donald Trump trial on camera?
That's where I'm at. And plus, full transparency. Nothing's getting hidden.
No.
I guess it wouldn't anyway. There's a stenographer. But still, I want to see all of it happen because it already is a show trial. Let's just make it a show trial.
Yeah, and if Trump's attorneys successfully cross-examined, like for example, Michael Cohen on the stand,
oh my
gosh, then I could hear Trump yell out in the courtroom, "Hey Cohen, you're fired!" And then the place goes nuts. I mean, it would
judge
be hilarious.
starts banging the gavel,
or they ask a question and Trump goes, "Wrong." Just leans in. Wrong. That's great TV. I want to see it.
It's great TV, but it's terrible justice. So
Yes.
that's why I am so
It's already
conflicted.
terrible justice, though.
It is.
That's
It
my
is.
point. Is just go all in.
Yeah, let's burn this down.
It is terrible justice, and I'm just so conflicted. So thankfully, I don't think it's going to go to trial. But Brad Range and I, we were talking before the show that Alan Dershowitz now has the position, or is taking the position that this is probably going to go to trial.
It's going to go to trial, and it's going to be a conviction, is his position.
And his point is interesting. And the reason why he says this is, and this is something I've said for years, and let me set it up with this discussion. Anytime, like for example, most of the time when over the years when conservatives have been appointed to the Supreme Court, over time they've become less conservative. Why is that? And there's a very easy reason for that. Parties. What do I mean? Because if you want to get invited to the right parties, you have to agree with the people who are inviting you. And let's face it, socialists throw very good parties. They do. There's lots of wine. There's lots of cheese.
Lots of other people's money.
It's always other people's money, right? So they throw great parties. So if you want to go to those parties and you're a conservative, you don't get invited to them. So basically, Dershowitz's point is that if these judges want to keep getting invited to parties in New York, and if that's the judge that dismisses the Donald Trump lawsuit, they're not going to get invited to any parties again ever. And so those judges, the social pressure that's being put on them would prevent them from ruling the way they should, which would be to dismiss the case. And so therefore it goes to a jury. If you've got a jury pool made up of New York citizens, which of those are going to vote to acquit Trump? Nobody. And so that's essentially Alan Dershowitz's theory about why Trump gets convicted. What do you guys think of that?
Well, there goes your, justice is blind, your right to a fair trial by a jury of your peers. All of this nonsense all that is just gone now because of, I want to go to a party.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so, that's what I hate about this process. I don't believe that Donald Trump can get a fair trial. And he should. He absolutely has the right to it. He has the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty.
Not according to Nancy Pelosi.
Well, Nancy
Pelosi, who said that Donald Trump will have an opportunity, and I'm quoting, to prove his innocence.
Yeah. Well,
unquote.
we all know about Nancy Pelosi and what she knows about stuff. You got to pass. So you've got to convict Trump to know what the charges were.
Exactly.
So, but my thing is like, this is our justice. This is what we were built on. And now we're like, hey, let's throw it all out the window because I don't like that guy. So now we're going to weaponize our Justice Department to go after people. And we discussed this a lot yesterday. Should we then, in turn, start doing the same thing on the conservative side? Should we start prosecuting politically and maliciously liberals? Should we go after Democrats now with it? And it's a downward spiral here, and it's for no other reason than we hate Donald Trump. I mean, that's essentially what it all boils down to. We hate Donald Trump, so let's go after him and get him legally. I mean, I say this all the time. Their attitude is the Trump crime family. He's guilty of a crime. We know he's a criminal. We just don't know what crime it was, so we just got to find that first.
Well, Alvin Bragg actually ran for office on that premise.
On prosecuting him.
He said, vote for me, and I will find a way to prosecute Donald Trump for something. And he did, even though it's specious beyond measure, the way that he's doing it. But speaking of out-of-control prosecutors, obviously we've got one of those right here in the city of St. Louis in Kim Gardner. And I found it interesting that just this week, the St. Louis prosecutors had to dismiss and refile a murder case twice because they showed up completely unprepared, and the criminal was going to get acquitted. The murder defendant was going to be acquitted because the prosecuting attorney's office was unprepared, so they had to dismiss the charges at the last minute and then refile the charges with the hope of, well, maybe when this comes up for court again, we'll be more prepared than we are now. Why do we stand for this?
Well, I think that's an underreported part of the Kim Gardner saga is that she's been not only an activist in what she selectively prosecutes, but she's been so bad at even prosecuting the things that she chooses to prosecute that, as I've read, basically her whole office has abandoned her. Mm-hmm. And all of the attorneys that have worked for her and that had been carried over from previous administrations have just left because they said this is so awful that even, and these are Democrats, these aren't conservative Republicans. They're not leaving for ideological purposes.
No.
They're leaving because it was just run so poorly. So it's so many fronts on which she does not belong in that position. And the activism is probably chief among them, but also it's paired with incompetence. So they can't even do the basic things in that office anymore.
Mm-hmm. Here's the quote. The one of the defendants who was charged with murder, one of the defendant's attorneys, his name is Terry Neoff, he represents one of the criminal defendants charged with murder, and the case got dismissed. This is what he said. I'm quoting. It's outrageous. They don't play by the rules, and when they're caught about it and are about to get burned, they just dismiss the case and then refile it because that's an abuse of our system. Whenever you put the court system, the defense attorney, the defendant, I mean, here's a guy who's being charged with murder. He wants his day in court. If you want to put me away, then let's go to trial. And so this defendant is ready to go. He has rights as a criminal defendant. He has rights. And those rights are being trampled by the circuit attorney's office when it's suddenly dismissed and then instant refiled because now justice is delayed. Whether the guy is innocent or guilty, justice is delayed, and people are shocked. I can't tell you. There have been lots of people who have said to me, believe it or not, and they're activists, of course, but they said, well, Kim Gardner shouldn't be thrown out of office, particularly whenever I'm hosting on Wednesday nights over on KMOX. I've had people call up and say this. And it's outrageous. I question them, why? Tell me one good thing that Kim Gardner has done. Nobody can name anything.
Jeez. Brad, when I was a child, I thought like a child. I reasoned as a child. When I became a man, I put childish ways behind me.
You know what? That's is wise enough to be scripture right there.
Somebody should put that down in a holy document. But I mean, I kind of mean that because when I remember being a kid in high school, you thought your teachers were impartial. That they were discerners. You realize as you get older, nobody's actually impartial. It's just that we used to attempt to attain that. Mm-hmm. Nobody can be fully impartial, but we as a nation used to value that and say that's what we should be trying to do with the law. And we have abandoned, we don't even try to have the appearance of impartiality anymore. Never could achieve it, but we used to try to. And now we don't anymore. The whole blindfold over Lady Justice.
We at least pretended like it mattered.
And we tried. And we're not doing that anymore. It's a big change.
Well, one of the things I'm glad that's finally coming to light is that George Soros has been using his money to buy district attorneys' offices across this country in order to impose his vision of justice, which is not justice at all. It's chaos, it's anarchy, and it's the exact opposite of justice. And it's happening not just in New York, not just in Waukesha, Wisconsin, not just in San Francisco, but right here in the city of St. Louis. And I hope that this will come to an end because of what we're seeing play out. Hey, Brad Young sitting in for Annie Frey today. We'll be back right after this break on 97.1 FM Talk.
Saving money at Ruler Foods. It's impossible to go shop at Ruler Foods and not save money. They have all of the name brands that you normally shop, but they also carry Kroger brands at Ruler Food prices. You don't have to clip coupons. You don't have to go through all of that preparation it takes when you go grocery shopping to save money. You're just going to save by virtue of shopping at Ruler Foods. I appreciate how they set up the stores. They make the store layout. It makes a ton of sense. It's clean. It's inviting. And the people at Ruler Foods are always the kindest. Shopping at Ruler Foods is going to help you save on a whole variety of different options, different items. How about boneless pork chops or fresh hamburger patties sold in packs of 10 patties or chops for $10. Clementines or Honeycrisp apples, 3-pound bags, $3.47 a piece. Lay's potato chips or Tostitos, 4 for $9 when you buy 4. There are many ways for you to save at Ruler Foods on all of the different things you buy. If you haven't given them a chance to earn your business yet, just go one time for me and see what I've been talking about. Find your store at rulerfoods.com.
Finding great people to hire is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's pretty difficult, right? Well, ZipRecruiter has mastered finding a needle in a haystack. So they take it to the next level. They make hiring so simple that it's like finding a needle in a needle stack. And that's why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Here's what it's like to use ZipRecruiter. They have so many qualified candidates that it's easier to find the right ones for your roles. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's a lot of needles. So how do they do it? ZipRecruiter's powerful technology sends you candidates who are a great match for your job, and you can even invite your top choices to apply. So if you want less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin.
Sherlock Holmes, we have a new mystery.
My dear Watson, what conundrum requires our sleuthing?
It's these high gas prices, Sherlock. How do I stop paying too much at the pump?
Elementary, Watson. Simply use the cashback app, Upside.
The Upside app has eluded my attention.
Oh, come now, Watson. Upside is the revolutionary app that's free to download, and you get real cashback for every gallon of gas you buy. I use it all the time, and I've already made around $200.
So you can really make cash back just for buying the gas you have to buy anyway.
Precisely, my dear Watson. I have the app open now. Look, there's a gas station not far from here offering 25 cents per gallon cash back.
Sherlock, you've done it again. I will now use the Upside app and earn cash back on every gallon of gas I buy.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code HOMES to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, to PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code HOMES for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code HOMES for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
KFTK FM Florissant. From the Under Law Injury Lawyers, GetJim.com studio, 97.1 FM Talk. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
His hands were tied. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. That, in so many words, is the Biden administration's summary of the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. A just-released review says President Biden's choices were severely constrained by the actions of his predecessor. The report says the Trump administration left a date for withdrawal without a plan for executing it. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby also says ending the war was the right decision.
The United States had long ago accomplished its mission to remove from the battlefield the terrorists who attacked us on 9/11 and to degrade the terrorist threat to the United States from Afghanistan. And now, with that war over, we can more squarely address the most pressing challenges of our day.
Kirby says America is on a stronger strategic footing as a result. Republicans disagree and say the handling of the withdrawal is the current administration's fault. Tight security with more protests expected at the Tennessee State House as lawmakers debate a school safety bill after the recent mass shooting in Nashville. Opponents say the bill would militarize schools.
Representative Lambert told the media that we must fortify our schools, even if it means putting tanks outside our schools. That is disturbing. I don't think any of us want to live in a world like that.
State Representative Justin Jones says the real issue is easy access to military-grade weapons. He's one of 3 Democrats facing a possible expulsion vote for interrupting the session with a gun violence protest last week. Protesters setting fires in Paris and clashing with police, the latest round of mass demonstrations against pension reform, including an increase in the retirement age, though some peaceful protests turn violent as younger demonstrators mix in, upset with conditions and housing projects, for instance.
And there's a desperation that the French governments, not just French President Macron's government, but governments in the past, just have not addressed it.
Fox's Greg Palcott. America is listening to Fox News.
When you're an innovative business, every blinking cursor, every blank page is an opportunity. What will you do with it? Will you make something better? Or create something new? Our Dell Technologies advisors provide you with tools and expertise to do incredible things. Because we believe there's an innovator in all of us. For advice on smart PCs powered by Intel V Pro that's built for business, call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL.
Do you have heart failure and often hear,
"Those stomach issues ruined your birthday"?
"You're too tired to play catch, Grandpa."
Sweetie, you haven't touched your tools since the carpal tunnel syndrome diagnosis.
If these seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, talk to your cardiologist and ask about transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy, or ATTR-CM, a rare and underdiagnosed disease that gets worse over time. Learn more at connecttoyourheart.com. That's connecttoyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Cool times this afternoon. We should peak out at about 58 degrees with a bit of a changeable sky, a mix of clouds and sunshine with a light northwest flow. Tonight, partly to mostly cloudy skies, down to 34 degrees. Friday, plenty of sunshine, a nippy start, but 63 Friday afternoon. Saturday, nice, partly sunny, 68. Even better for Easter Sunday, partly sunny and 75. This is 97.1 FM Talk Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
If you haven't joined us for a Fish Fry Friday, we've got one more chance for you.
Come out to the VFW Hall in O'Fallon, Missouri for some walleye, catfish, or shrimp.
Fish Fry Fridays conclude this week in O'Fallon. On St. Louis's home for conservative talk, everyone is welcome.
Let's talk about building a home in Illinois and where to go to get that done. C.A. Jones, online at cajonesinc.com, improving lives through quality homes and community involvement. C.A. Jones cares about the neighborhoods that they're building in. They care about working and instilling an investment in those neighborhoods. And they have the best Energy Star certified home builder offerings in top energy efficient homes in the Metro East. If you're thinking about building a home soon, please consider going to their website, cajonesinc.com, and you can check out all of the different layouts and plans that they have. They are beautiful with such wonderful customizations. You can make sure that this house becomes your home. They also have the largest inventory of new construction homes for sale right there on their website. You can look at some plans that they have that maybe if you were looking to build at a specific place, some of these new construction homes might be those plans, so you can walk through those online and see what they're all about. Go with the people who I would choose. Go to cajonesinc.com and find out today about getting your next house built to make it your home.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements.
At Underlaw, we take on the establishment and challenge corporations to be better for the safety of our community.
Call Underlaw Personal Injury Lawyers at 314 or 618 $9
Hey, it's Mark Reardon for Ophthalmology Associates. My eye health is super important to me for a variety of reasons. About 30 years ago, I had an eye disease, and I almost had a retinal detachment, had surgery, everything has been okay, but regular eye care has become important for me and has been for decades, and I only trust the best. And that's Doctors Greg Birdie and Ranjan Malhotra at Ophthalmology Associates. They're here in St. Louis to take care of all of your vision needs. Maybe you have dry eye or your eyes itchy and scratchy. It might be more than just allergies. And Ophthalmology Associates is a leader in dry eye diagnosis and treatment. Let's talk LASIK. With modern LASIK procedures, more people can benefit, and LASIK can reduce or eliminate your need for contacts and glasses. Even if there's nothing going on in particular, annual eye health exams can prevent many kinds of eye and health problems, and they're typically covered by insurance. If you want excellent eye care, trust Ophthalmology Associates. It's a great office experience and staff. They're always on the leading edge of the latest technology. 12990 Manchester Road, a half mile west of 270, 314-966-5000. Online at youridoc.com. That's youridoc.com.
Did you know the IRS is a super creditor? Hi, I'm Lance Drury with the Lance Drury Law Firm. The IRS is the only creditor that can create a bill for you without your permission, then drop the hammer and aggressively collect it by wiping out your bank account, seizing your assets, and levying your wages. No other creditor can do that, and this can all happen without a court approval. If you owe back taxes, you need to be prepared to face the super creditor. Don't just sit back and take it. Fight back. At the Lance Drury Law Firm, we know how to use the laws to your advantage and go toe-to-toe with the IRS. Our office is located right here in St. Louis. Contact the Lance Drury Law Firm today for a free consultation with me, or visit us at lancedrurylaw.com or call 314-260-6120. That's 314-260-6120 to get started.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
If you want to lose weight, I've got a great idea for you. Mark Cox here for my friends at Victory Men's Health. They're now offering FDA-approved semaglutide. They have tremendous results with this medication. The average patient loses 15% of their body weight. Men and women can get semaglutide from Victory Men's Health at any of their 3 locations. Be sure and book your appointment today online at victorymenshealth.com.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what you're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Come on, turn the radio on. It's Saturday and I won't be long.
Don't get me wrong. I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom. It is Anchor Man, not Anchor Lady.
What do you want from me? I'm not America's sweetheart.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
I'm not America's sweetheart.
This is the Annie Frey Show.
Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. Brad Young sitting in today for Annie, and of course, as always, joined by Ryan Wiggins and Brad Range. And gentlemen, I wanted to throw this topic out for discussion because one of the things that were on the ballot on Tuesday was the marijuana tax. And I believe there was a tax in St. Louis City that voted in favor of this. There was also Plan M, which was for St. Louis County to add additional taxation to marijuana. And St. Charles County passed the same type of a tax increase with 65% of the vote. Here's the question. What kind of impact do you think well, let me ask it this way. The people who voted for this tax increase, what do you think that the voters wanted to happen if they voted for these tax increases on marijuana sales?
Based on the way it was advertised, I would say that they were voting in favor of increasing funding for public services like police and fire departments. Because I think specifically Prop M said it can be used to fund these things. It didn't say it had to.
It said may.
May, yeah.
It may be used. And of course, if it says it may be used, it may also not be used. Mm-hmm. So really, this money is just going into the general fund. But even if you accept the idea that, okay, it's not going to specifically go for police and fire, but still the idea of voters who voted for this is that it will be used in some form or fashion to improve government services from St. Louis County and certainly St. Charles County. Is that fair enough? Mm-hmm. Well, here's what I find interesting is that how economics impacts almost everything that we do. And over the last few years, one of the economic trends that I love to follow is how legalized marijuana impacts the economics of illegal marijuana.
This is interesting.
I love this analysis, okay? It's happened in Colorado, it's happened in California, it's happened in just about every state that's legalized weed. And here's exactly what happens. And I'm going to give generic numbers for discussion. And then I want to talk about how it applies to St. Louis County and St. Charles County. But generic numbers. Let's just say, for example, a bag of weed that's illegal would normally go for, and I have no idea because I've never smoked weed, but let's say $200. And then legal weed comes in and it's priced at $100. So if legal weed is now $100 and illegal weed is $200, what happens to the price of illegal marijuana?
It drops.
It plummets, right?
Do you know for sure that legal is cheaper than illegal?
Well, and I'm making that assumption just for discussion purposes. Okay. So all of a sudden now, illegal weed is always 100% priced less than legal weed, because why would you buy it on the street if you could pay less to get it from a dispensary?
Well, and they can do it like illegally. They can do it without all of the regulations, the taxes, and all of that other stuff. So they can always undercut the up and up business.
Exactly. So the trends that we saw in every state that's legalized it, and we're going to see it happen in Missouri. It hasn't been legal for long enough, but we're going to see the same trend that initially when a state legalizes weed, there are enormous sales. And the tax revenue is enormous from the weed sales, right? Then when people get tired of paying the high cost of all of the taxation, all of the regulation, all of the rules that add to the cost of the business. Like, for example, how often do we see stories about dispensaries now where cars try to crash in and steal their weed and steal their money? It's a weekly occurrence, right?
Oh, I've never seen that before.
Oh, yeah, once a week. There's a dispensary, and they've got to put these enormous concrete barriers now in front of the weed stores because people crash through the doors and they break in to steal their marijuana. So, or they steal their money. So they spend tons of money on security, on making sure that the weed is secured, their money is secured, their building's secured, and they got to recoup that money. It's economics 101. So they've got to charge more for the pot to pay for their security. What security does the guy on the corner have? He's got a pistol that he probably stole from somebody else. So he's got no costs. So the illegal weed always undercuts the legal weed. So the trend is, the bell curve is that the sales of legal weed spike up. And then when people get tired of paying that money, then they start paying for illegal weed. So the sales of the legal weed come down because the people are paying for illegal weed, not legal weed. Okay. Why am I going through all that analysis? For this reason. I think the people who voted for these tax increases did so because they wanted to, number one, increase the revenue coming to state and local governments. But what they didn't understand is that economics requires that the opposite is going to happen. Because if you increase the price of the legal weed by adding more taxation, the net result is going to be a decrease of sales for legal weed and an increase of sales for illegal weed on which no taxes are paid.
So if they want to increase this revenue, what they're going to have to do is increase penalties for illegal weed. They're going to have to crack down on illegal weed.
But nobody's doing that.
Nobody's doing that.
Nobody's doing that.
This reminds me of like moonshining and stuff like that, you know, because moonshining's illegal. You've got to go and get the legal alcohol.
Yeah.
This also probably means that we're going to get some sort of form of stoner NASCAR out of this because bootleggers who ran
stoner NASCAR.
Yes, bootleggers who ran, you know, moonshine across the country. That's where NASCAR got its origins. They started arguing about whose car was the fastest, and then they decided we're going to start go racing, and then that developed into what we know today as NASCAR, which is 75 years old today.
So now we're going to have like Bo and Luke Duke driving in his car. What was it? The General Lee is now. They're going to be transporting weed
in it
across state lines.
Look in, the windows are all fogged up, and there's smoke rolling out.
Can't see out.
It's going to be it'll be a combination of the Dukes of Hazzard and Cheech and Chong.
Cheech and Chong
is what it's going to. It's going to be putting those two together. Is what it's going to be.
That scene where they think they're racing, and then the smoke clears and they're parked.
Exactly. So hypothetically, then, because the argument that's always brought up, Brad, is, well, if you raise the taxes on marijuana or you regulate it too much, you're just creating a black market. But it sounds like no matter what you do, there's always going to be a black market.
There will always be a black market.
Just like it can always undercut the price.
100% of the time. There is no circumstance where the black market cannot come in at a cheaper price than the legal product because they don't have security, they don't have regulations, they don't have any rules about the purity of the product, and there's no taxation. They don't have to pay salaries. There's none of the things that add to the cost of doing business exist when it comes to black market weed. So they'll always, 100% of the time, be able to undercut the legal product.
So what about, and I'm just making this term up, what about the Walmart effect, where you have a small business that's able to sell apples and oranges and vegetables, but then Walmart comes in and they can get so much more apples and oranges and vegetables and everything else that they can get everything cheaper. So they can actually, the bigger they are, they can actually undercut the small guys. Could that happen with marijuana?
In what context? Who's the big guy here?
So the big guy would be the industry that's supporting legal marijuana, which is actually a pretty big industry.
Like an Ascend or a company
Somebody like that. So they can produce so much more marijuana than your average small-town guy who can only do 2 budding plants at a time or whatever it is.
Right.
That they could actually overproduce and saturate the market and bring it all down.
Well, that would be true except for the excessive taxation and the excessive regulation. Because of those two factors that will require the legal product to have enormous costs that the illegal product will never have. So I don't see any circumstance where that could happen. Also, because of the way that marijuana was legalized in Missouri, it's legal to grow your own weed, okay? So if you can grow your own weed, there's not going to be any enforcement, because what constitutes growing your own weed? Well, hey, dude, I got like 10 acres and it's all for me. And there's no way to regulate that, and there's no way to enforce that. So the guy who grows 10 acres of marijuana, number one, is never going to get arrested, never going to be investigated. He can cultivate it, produce it, and sell it without any taxation, with no regulation, and with no security. So when you have access to the market with none of the cost of the market, the legal product can never match the cost of the black market product.
So when you're looking at states, I'm assuming what you've looked at is from states who have done this for a number of years now, like Colorado.
Yes.
When you look at Colorado, I saw a stat recently, and it's one of my big rails against, and it doesn't really matter anymore because it's legal in Missouri and Illinois. It's not going back.
No.
But ahead of the election, my argument was, don't make an industry out of this. Just decriminalize it, because that's what everybody gets hung up on is, why are you throwing this guy in jail who likes to smoke a joint? Well, then decriminalize marijuana. Don't legalize marijuana, because you make an industry out of it.
But you know why that had to happen, don't you? I mean, you understand why governments couldn't resist making an industry out of it, because the government's job is to extract money from people and industry. That's what government does.
Yeah.
They take money. And so if they followed your model, the Ryan Wiggins model, and just decriminalized it, then at that point, the only money that would be saved from the government would be the money saved from not prosecuting drug crimes, but they wouldn't get any new revenue from that. So if you're going to decriminalize it, the government viewpoint has to be, we've got to figure out a way to make money on it. So the only way to make money on it is to create an industry that we can tax, because that's what government does.
So when you look at Colorado, one of those random facts before we get to a break here is that now in Colorado, you take all the Starbucks and all the McDonald's combined, and apparently there are more legal pot shops in the state of Colorado than those two places combined.
I didn't know that.
Amazing, isn't it? I mean, that is remarkable.
Wow.
So there has to still be a legal industry happening. So is it just that so many more people smoke marijuana that it actually supports the industry at large, even legal and illegal?
No, I don't think it's more. I just think there was that many people doing it.
Right. But what happened in Colorado was there was an enormous spike of usage, and then it came down, and now it's leveled off. Okay. But as it's leveled off, the market for illegal weed, for black market weed, has also, shall I say, blossomed. So
you shall.
Okay.
Or budded.
Or budded. It has budded. That's a better term. So the black market has budded because of your increase of users. So look at it again from economics terms. If 5% of the population of Colorado smoked weed while it was illegal, when it became legal, that number jumped from 5. I'm making up the numbers just for discussion purposes, for the concept. If it tripled to 15% of the population, and then when 15% of the population decide they don't want to pay as much, and then the numbers come back down for the sales of legal weed, those people are going to black market weed. So that's why the legalization of marijuana is the best thing ever for the black market because you increase the number of people that use your product and you eliminate the criminalization of your product.
Yeah. Yeah. I think just the last question I'm trying to get answered here is that if that is true, though, it seems like there wouldn't be so many pot shops left in Colorado. But there obviously are.
Well, there are
because an industry still
sure, and
that
there always
is
will
making
be.
tax money still.
Yeah, there always will be because there's a certain segment of the population that's never going to buy it on the corner. They're never going to buy black market weed because they like the idea of this is regulated. I have some assurances of product purity.
Yeah, they're upstanding citizens.
Right. I know, I don't want it laced with fentanyl. I don't want it laced with oregano. I don't want it laced with whatever. So they're more comfortable. So there'll always be that segment. But what I'm just talking about is in terms of trends.
Pure numbers.
The legalization of marijuana is the best thing for the black market weed industry. And the increase of taxation on legal weed is cheered by the black market because it increases their sales.
Wow.
And increases the amount of money they can charge because now that the taxation on the legal weed goes up, now that black market weed can charge more for the same product. So everyone who voted in favor of the taxation did so on the basis of trying to raise more state revenue when at the end of the day, it'll probably decrease state revenue.
Wow. That's good stuff.
Well, it would blow your mind, particularly if you were high. It would even be probably more instructive.
If you're high right now and listen to this segment, people are like,
whoa, dude. Dude.
Ryan, do you still want to stick it to the stoners?
Yeah, why not?
See, where could you get this kind of analysis anywhere else in St. Louis other than right here on the Annie Frey Show, 97.1 FM Talk? We'll be right back after this break. Stick around.
This is the Annie Frey Show. Find the podcast, on-demand audio, and more at 971talk.com/Annie.
Most of the time had better things to do. Criminal record says I'm broken twice.
Hi, this is Terry Hall, host of the popular radio show for veterans, Vet Time in America. Sundays at 12 noon on 97.1 FM Talk. Our show is all about veterans. We talk with experts. We help you get benefits, how to get more, and what to do if you're not getting what you deserve. Tune in on Sunday at noon. Join the conversation. We take calls. Vet Time in America. Tune in this Sunday at noon on 97.1 FM Talk.
I did a live for Fountains Family Dentistry a couple days ago, and I remember walking out of the studio, and Hannah said, yeah, you know what? That actually is the most difficult part of going to the dentist, is just making the appointment. That's why I talk about that aspect of Fountains Family Dentistry so often. Not that the appointment itself is going to be bad. It's going to be great. These are the nicest people in the world. They're going to get you in and out of there, and they know exactly what they're doing. Dr. Ty Parker has been a longtime friend of mine, and he is cutting edge with technology and has been since I've known him, even before he was a dentist. But it really is easy to get an appointment with them. You go to fountainsfamilydentistry.com. You can enter it right there online. If you don't want to call them, they make it easy, and then they'll just schedule it with you that way. But if you do want to call them, 618-622-1800. They're in Fairview Heights and very, very easy to talk to. Appointments late into the evening some days, early some days, all for your convenience. 618-622-1800. Fountains Family Dentistry, again, easy to get to, right off of Highway 64 in Fairview Heights, Illinois. fountainsfamilydentistry.com.
Hi guys, it's Mark with Pineview Medical Clinic. Are you struggling with erectile dysfunction and sick of the pills? Well, we have a major medical advancement that has helped thousands of men. Our wave technology is backed by 60 clinical studies, including from Cambridge University. It's been shown to increase blood flow by repairing blood vessels. No pills and no side effects. If you're ready to put a stop to your ED, call us now, and not only will the assessment and blood flow ultrasound be free, but will also include something unique that produces powerful results in the bedroom. You're going to love that one, guys. Trust me. This unprecedented offer is worth $600, but it's free to those who call in the next 2 minutes. Call 314-530-7777. That's 314-530-7777. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your life back. Call Pineview Medical Clinic now to qualify. 314-530-7777.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. Wounded Warrior Project was created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war, whether those scars are physical or mental. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Are you the parent of a 2 to 7-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting free radio offer. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse, the Parents' Choice Award-winning online learning program that's actually changing the lives of early learners everywhere.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
Right now, we're offering a special radio promo to try it free for a month, but you have to go to abcmouse.com/radio to claim your free month. That's abcmouse.com/radio.
Sponsored by Age of Learning.
You wouldn't trust a butcher to babysit your pet pig. You wouldn't trust a lumberjack to repair your antiques. Or a professional wrestler to be your massage therapist. So why would you trust anyone but AMCO to fix your car? For over 50 years, we've been the trusted experts in transmission repair.
AMCO offers easy payment plan options for most any credit situation, so you can fix it fast and pay it off slow at AMCO.
AA MCO.
St. Louis is home for conservative talk.
The Mark Reardon Show.
Dave Seminar is back with us.
You get brownie points with the state of Maryland for having someone at your company from every different group except white people.
Weekdays from 3 to 6 on 97.1 FM Talk. The Annie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. Brad Young sitting in today for Annie, who should be back very soon. But in the meantime, Chicago. I love going to Chicago. It's one of my favorite cities to go to. And much like St. Louis, Chicago's been, well, think about it. They've been rocked by spikes of crime, issues related to fleeing citizens who are leaving the area. They got city budgets that can't be balanced. So now Chicago has a new mayor. But does that mean Chicago is moving in a new direction? Joining us this afternoon, and you know him well, syndicated columnist Charles Lipson. Hey, Charles, great to talk to you again.
Hey, anybody who gives me the lead-in of taking care of business wins my support, you know?
Yeah, that's good, because you do take care of business, and because I follow you, you are a prolific writer and a columnist, and I wanted to talk to you because you wrote a great column this week about Chicago. But given that there's just the dumpster fire administration of Lori Lightfoot when she was running Chicago, I assume that the wise citizens of Chicago have seen the light. They have eschewed the empty promises of progressivism, and they are now ready to embrace compassionate conservatism. Am I wrong?
You know, there was an English improv duo. People know at least one of the people from it, Dudley Moore, but his partner was Peter Cook.
I remember that.
Peter Cook and Dudley Moore had an interview, a make-believe interview, in which Dudley Moore had founded a restaurant which only served peach in a frog or frog in a peach. and you're going to be surprised by this, but the restaurant was not successful.
What?
And it was not successful. And so at the end, Dudley Moore asked Peter Cook, "Have you learned from your mistakes?" And he said, "This is so appropriate to Chicago and St. Louis." And Dudley Moore says, "Yes, I have learned from my mistakes, and I believe I can now repeat them exactly."
I see exactly where you're going.
Yes.
So what's going on in
this
Chicago?
Is even worse, actually. Lori Lightfoot came into office as a progressive, to be sure, but she was not the favorite of the teachers union. In fact, they backed her opponent in the runoff and so forth. Brandon Johnson is not just a favored candidate of the teachers union, but he is really a product of the teachers union. He was an organizer for them. That's where he has gotten his main salary for years, and it's a scandal beyond what you think about Brandon Johnson as a candidate. And I don't think well of him. There's a real problem with public sector unions playing this role. Obviously, people have a right to organize. They have a right to strike in the private sector. But nobody recognizes the right of police to strike, for example. But there's a different problem with a public sector union than a private sector union. And that is that only the private sector unions get to pick the people they're going to negotiate with. And that's exactly what the Chicago Teachers Union has done here. Something like 90+% of Brandon Johnson's donations were from the Teachers Union.
Right, which is the thing that I find fascinating about this, Charles, and of course we're talking to syndicated columnist Charles Lipson, is that back in Chicago's heyday, back under Mayor Richard Daley, I mean, machine politics, they were in full swing back then. But, of course, after a series of legal rulings, that machine was largely dismantled. But as I look at Brandon Johnson here, hasn't he assembled literally a new type of a political machine in Chicago?
That's a surprisingly smart point, Brad. That's a joke.
Well, and I got it from you.
It's surprisingly smart. No, it's exactly right. The fact is, political machines in cities of the old sort have been completely abolished. Partly because they were built on a certain kind of old ethnic politics. To the extent that there's any group politics like that in most cities, it's racial. It's the mobilization of black citizens, and that will eventually blow up as Hispanics depart from that coalition, because they understand that in most cities they're in second place or worse in that coalition, and they're not going to take it. In Chicago, there are actually more Hispanics than there are blacks. It's just that blacks turn out, they're much better organized because they've been doing it for many years in local politics, and they vote in much larger numbers. But you're right that court rulings in Chicago, the first one some years ago was you couldn't hire people for political reasons in most jobs. I mean, obviously you could, if you're the mayor, you can hire your own assistants, but you can't hire somebody to pick up garbage for political reasons. And then the follow-up to that was a federal court ruling that you couldn't fire people for political reasons. Well, that took the beating heart out of the old machine. So people have been trying to figure out how to put machines back together in the absence of those criteria.
And Brandon has accomplished that by using public sector unions.
That's exactly right. But I guess I would put the mover and shaker here as the union rather than Brandon. I don't think he put the coalition together. I think the union put the coalition together.
Right. But by doing this, and this is what I think people don't understand, and this is what I want to clarify, is that if the union as an organization institutes a puppet mayor in Brandon Johnson, and the real power lies not with Brandon Johnson, but with the union itself. This is the unions that negotiate with the city for increases of salaries. So now you have this symbiotic relationship where the union puts someone in power, and the person they put in power rewards the union by increased salaries, increased benefits, and this symbiotic relationship between the city and the union can't be broken.
That's exactly the problem. I think what will break it, and I think the big problem the Democrats have nationally, is that their answer to almost everything is tax and spend. And we've sort of reached the limit of that, I think. Brandon Johnson has proposed $800 million in tax increases for Chicago. I don't see aldermen in the city council being willing to go for that. And that includes things that businesses in the city just hate, like a head tax. So in other words, you might live in the suburbs, Brad, but if you come in to work in St. Louis, then there's a head tax on you for your employer.
St. Louis has the same tax.
Employers hate it, and they have a rational decision. They move out of the city, and that's been the problem. I mean, people, the national bird of Chicago and St. Louis and so forth is a U-Haul.
Absolutely, and that's unfortunate. And speaking of U-Hauls, when we're talking about Lori Lightfoot, the U-Haul took away her voters because she won with 75% of the vote just 4 years ago, and now she couldn't even get through the primary. And at least my understanding of it was in large measure based upon an inability to confront the crime issue. Is there any understanding, or is there any hope or any consideration given that Brandon Johnson, in cahoots with the unions, will do any better of a job combating crime than did Lori Lightfoot?
Well, it's hard to imagine him doing worse, but he's certainly going to try. In the 4 years that Lori Lightfoot has been in office, there have been over 2,300 homicides in Chicago. And Brandon Johnson, in the midst of all this, repeatedly said he wanted to defund the police. Now, I don't know whether Lori Lightfoot was booted out on the crime issue, because it's hard to imagine how she would be booted out on that issue and then Brandon Johnson elected as her successor. He never really denied it. He just tried to dance away from those things that he had said previously.
But even though he had enormous support from unions, one union that did not support Brandon Johnson in any way was the Chicago Police Union.
Well, that's exactly right. And but the Chicago Police Union is not exactly warmly liked by a lot of people in the city. And
nor by Jussie Smollett either, but that's another story. I'm sorry. Please
were
continue.
You the guy who was delivering him sandwiches late at night?
Yeah, I'm sure that was me. I was the guy that was doing that.
I knew it. I had a bad feeling about you.
Well, every week, seeing my inbox light up with a Charles Lipson column always brings a smile to my face. And Charles, if folks want to get on your list to get your emailed columns on a weekly basis, how can they do that?
Just write me at charleslipson@gmail.com. I'll be happy. And all of my past columns are at charleslipson.com. I came up with those names myself, by the way.
It's shocking. I mean,
really?
to say those are brilliant names and brilliant email addresses is truly an understatement.
Hey, are you old enough to remember
Yes.
Life of Riley?
Life of Riley was a little before me.
Okay.
I know about it just because I'm a wonk for history, but that predates me. I look a lot older than I really am.
Chester A. Riley would always end every episode by sitting out on his steps after he'd been the boob for the whole story and say, what a revolting development this is. And I believe that should be our national motto now. And boy, it's a motto for Chicago.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a really sad situation to see cities as great as St. Louis, Chicago, Detroit, and so forth, facing such hard times, and then have the voters, in effect, say, keep it up.
Right. Yeah, you've done such a terrible job. Let's get more of it.
Exactly. Exactly. Great to talk to you, Brett.
Charles Lipson, as always, it's a pleasure to talk to you, my friend. Can't wait to talk to you again soon.
You too.
Hey, coming up next here on the Annie Frey Show, we've got Wiggins America. Stick around. It's next here on the Annie Frey Show, 97.1 FM Talk.
You're listening to The Annie Frey Show. Follow Annie on Twitter at Annie Frey Show.
Hi, this is Thomas Helbig with the Retirement Advisory Group.
Hi, I'm Bob Kershaw, Tom's nephew. As a family business, we are committed to protecting your retirement, whether you're nearing retirement or already retired. What if it were possible to protect you from market downturns without having to make an emotional decision to buy or sell? What if you could take advantage of a strategy that would automatically take you out of harm's way during the bad years and position you for the growth opportunity during the good years?
The secret is in linking safely to the market without putting your principal at risk. By linking to the market instead of owning the market, you can participate safely on autopilot and lock in your gains without creating a taxable event. Go online at retirementkey.com for a no-obligation retirement review. Learn the strategies that have helped our clients retire with confidence for the past 36 years. And just for coming in, you'll get a copy of our latest edition book, Your Key to a Worry-Free Retirement. So go online at retirementkey.com. That's retirementkey.com.
An update from the Illinois Family Institute, illinoisfamily.org. Illinois House lawmakers could vote soon on SB 1909. The legislation will shut down pro-life pregnancy resource centers through fines and litigation. It also gives the Illinois Attorney General additional discretion to move against them.
They're coming after us every which way.
Attorney Ann O'Connor with the National Institute of Family and Life Advocates says voters should ask their state representatives to vote no on SB 1909.
There's already laws in place to deal with any kind of deceptive advertising or bad practices. And you're targeting these specific organizations who do great work, and we're watching.
For names and phone numbers of state reps, click Officials Finder at illinoisfamily.org. illinoisfamily.org.
One Brad Range just told me that he's going to drive up to Andrea's restaurant, walk in the front door, and say, "Give me that barbecue sauce," because I talk about it so much.
That's exactly right. But I was going to say Ryan Wiggins said to give me some of that.
No, I know you have to name drop me. But if you do go to Andrea's restaurant, definitely do pick up their sauces while you're there. You're going to have a great meal, so don't worry about that part. But pick up their sauces because they have 3 of them now. Their steak sauce, which is world famous. The White House gets a case of Andrea's steak sauce every single year since I think the early 80s. So a chef there either really likes it or there's multiple chefs there that like it. But beyond that, they now have salad dressing, which they've had for a number of years, and their brand new barbecue sauce, which the reason I say Brad said that is because I talk about it off the air all the time. I'm like, dude, you got to get this. It is that good. And I joke because I was going to talk about it anyway. Obviously, I do ads for them, but it is that good. It is fantastic. It's a little spicy, which I love in a barbecue sauce, and it's got more of a vinegar base than a mustard base. Different types of barbecue sauce, right? So try it. It is available at local stores. You can get it at Dierberg's or Schnucks. They have a lot of boutique stores. Pick up their steak sauce for sure, too, as the weather gets nicer. It is grilling season. You're going to want a bottle of Andrea's steak sauce, too. You can get all of those as well at andreas.com.
Hi, Chad Hansen with Hansen's Tree Service and Environmental Resources. Spring is a great time to refresh your garden and landscape. At Hansen's, we manufacture a full line of garden and landscape products that are perfect for your outdoor project. Pick up any of our products at World Outdoor Emporium, Kirkwood Materials, or a Hansen's location near you.
Yes, with inflation, interest rate increases, and a possible recession looming, we are no doubt facing uncertain times in the housing market. But as a realtor with over 20 years of experience, I can tell you, if you're thinking of selling your home, now more than ever, you need a realtor to help you through these times while saving you money. Hi, I'm Christina Straight, owner of Straight Realty, and we offer all of this for only 4%. Why pay more than 4? 314-441-4444.
Straight Realty is a licensed broker in the state of Missouri.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Air Comfort Service offers insulation services. Did you know 9 out of 10 homes are under-insulated? Increase your energy savings and comfort with better insulation. For details, visit aircomfortservice.com.
Celebrating 22 years as St. Louis's home for conservative talk. 97.1 FM Talk. Thanks for being a part of it. This is the Annie Frey Show. Interact with Annie on Facebook. The Annie Frey Show.
Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. Brad Young sitting in today for Annie. And speaking of interacting with the show, we've got a YouTube poll right now. Should Donald Trump's trial be televised? Yes or no? And Brad Range, how can people find the poll?
I'm out of place here. Usually Hannah does this, and she's out doing producer things out in the studio area out there. But so you find the YouTube poll by going on youtube.com, find Annie Frey, just search Annie Frey. When it goes there, when you see our live stream, you just click on that, and it will prompt you as soon as you go in, decide whether or not you think this thing should be televised. But we also want you to comment so that Hannah can star those comments. She's going to come in later in the show and read your responses on the air. So jump in there, find out, tell us why.
Yeah,
so
not just answer the question, but why you give the answer that you give right now on our YouTube Annie Frey chat. Hey, now is I can't think of a better time for Wiggins America.
Wiggins! Oh, Wiggins! Especially since Hannah didn't even plan this. She used Space Hog as the bump music for this segment. How perfect is that? You know that the lead singer of Space Hog
You act like
me.
Hannah didn't plan this, but
didn't.
she killed it with Lipson.
Yeah. Yep.
With taking care of business. She's got you under control.
Hannah, did you know that the lead singer of Space Hog follows me on Twitter? You did. She did know that. Never mind.
Yep.
I thought she didn't. I probably have said it about 50 times. Like, oh, by the way, Royston Langdon, he used to be married to Liv Tyler.
Kind of big
follows
deal.
Me on
Follows
Twitter.
Me.
It's like the only celebrity.
You follow him back.
Yeah. Actually, he was going to be a possible part of Songstage when I was doing TV, which is why he follows me. Anyway, let's talk about the latest Democratic challenger to Joe Biden.
Yes.
We're assuming that Joe Biden is even running because we don't know.
I'm not assuming, but go ahead.
Well, he hasn't said he isn't.
I still don't think he finishes his term.
And I do. I think he runs again.
Man.
Well, you know what's going to determine whether he runs again is the availability of Adderall. That's really going to be what makes
And there's been a lot of shortages with everything.
There's been a lot of shortages, which tells me that people are hoarding it for White House usage. Just a guess.
Yeah.
Just a guess on my part.
Again, just a guess. We don't know, but it probably is true. So the latest Democratic challenger is a man by the name of Kennedy. The Kennedys are back in politics, ladies and gentlemen. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., RFK Jr., has announced that he will be running for president on the Democrat side.
Interesting.
So when I saw this morning, I was shocked because I did not expect it, first of all. And I mean, the whole Kennedy thing is kind of a thing. I don't think that matters to modern day voters, really.
No.
I don't think the name carries the weight of, people that would care anymore. But just for legacy purposes, that's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, isn't the first thing you thought of, what is that debate going to look like? Am I wrong?
Well, it'll be a debate that RFK is going to try to focus on vaccines.
Yes.
Because he is a rabid anti-vaxxer.
Yes, and I have not read his entire book, but I was actually thinking about pulling sound for this segment because we had him scheduled to be on Wiggins America about a year ago. And he, at the last minute, had to pull out of the interview, so we ended up interviewing his editor and publisher. But I didn't want to pull sound from the publisher because I thought, well, he's not declaring for presidency.
Sure.
But super interesting guy. Now, the book, I've never read the book, but one of my co-hosts on my show has. And he said it is all detail. The guy has receipts till Tuesday and backs up everything he's saying concerning not just vaccines, but the the world around it.
Give us some more context.
So he goes deep in on Dr. Anthony Fauci and how corrupt he is.
Interesting.
And I mean, gives very, very pointed detail because he's there. I mean, this is Robert Kennedy Jr. The guy is an activist. He's been a Democrat darling for years because he's an environmental activist. He's like an older Greta Thunberg. I mean, he's way far left on a lot of this stuff.
I'm curious about this guy, though. Does he have a chance?
I think the answer is no. And here's an unfortunate truth about why. If you've ever heard him talk, now Tucker Carlson's had him on recently. If you've ever heard him speak, he's kind of difficult to listen to. I don't know what it is about the way that he's like, it was almost like he has trouble talking.
Okay.
And it may just be a medical condition. I'm not sure what it is. But,
well, listen, it hasn't slowed down Fetterman.
And it hasn't slowed down Joe Biden.
It hasn't slowed down Joe Biden, exactly.
But the machine, to answer your question beyond just like the voice thing, the machine will not be for him. The machine is, in fact, fully against him.
Yeah.
He is a Tulsi Gabbard type where he has turned on them.
So you've kind of mentioned that he was a darling of the left for a while.
For a long time.
And now...
Because of his environmental activism.
Yes. Yes. And he still is far left on a lot of things. He's just that, I don't know if populist is the right word, but something like that, where he has said the government is not necessarily there to help you. We have to keep that in mind. And that's a big distinction with a lot of politicians. And I don't mean just Democrats. I mean politicians these days is how much do you put your faith in the government? Well, he, being a rare voice on the Democrat side, has come out and said, hey, keep in mind that the government doesn't have your best interest in mind all the time. And in fact, with COVID, they really didn't. And here's why.
Interesting.
So, yeah, and that's kind of a really important distinction because that's why the Constitution was made the way it was, written the way it was. The Constitution limits the government. It doesn't give them powers. It enumerates their powers and limits them. And it's very interesting for me to hear somebody who would be far left, maybe ideologically far left, say, hey, the government ain't it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's almost inconsistent.
Well, there was an interesting story. It was from and I'm trying to think it was from, who's the guy that was in the Clinton administration that he was the pollster for Bill Clinton, Dick Morris. That's who it was.
I know Dick Morris.
Dick Morris.
I know who he is.
Dick Morris told a very interesting question that he was on the stand whenever Bill Clinton was sworn in as president in 1993. And the jets were flying over. And keep in mind, the staffers on the Clinton administration were all people who were product of the 60s, where it was very chic to be anti-government. It was very chic to be protesting anything that the government did. And so the folks who were on the podium during the inauguration were cringing when the jets were flying and the military parades were happening for the inauguration because their instincts were to be anti-government. And I heard Dick Morris say that he heard Bill Clinton say out loud that, well, this is our government now. In other words, don't be afraid of the government because now it's our government. Ooh. We're not against them. And the reason why I share that story is because that's a paradigm that has shifted for the left in this country who used to be anti-government and who have now embraced total government, cradle-to-grave government. They've embraced it, but yet RFK is a little bit of a throwback to the era that said, government, I'm going to be skeptical about what government does.
Well, everybody's anti-establishment until they're the establishment.
Well, that's the point that Dick Morris was making.
And now they're the establishment.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, too. It's like, okay, well, your guy's in power. You're against power. You're against government control until you have it. And
yeah,
then you're
Fidel
like,
Castro.
I really like this.
Right.
Oh, my
okay,
gosh.
Fidel Castro.
But
I'm against the government until I am the government. Right?
I'm of the mind that you're people that are like, the government's the bad guy that run for office. It's like, I don't know that I necessarily believe you because as soon as you get in there, you get a taste of that. Or maybe it's even, maliciously, they're lying about it and they just want the power.
Well, Ronald Reagan, even when he became the president, he was still strongly advocating that the government isn't the solution to our problems.
Right.
Government is the problem.
That's because he had principles and he was sticking to them. And a lot of those people who get in office, Republicans and Democrats alike, they don't. And they realize real quickly, ooh, this is good for me. I'm going to hang on to it. With RFK, by the way, just to wrap this up, this guy's for real. He may not be a serious contender for president. I mean, who knows? We'll see. But this guy, just having him in the race on the Democrat side, and especially, like I said, those debates, people are going to say that he just is going to be talking about vaccines and COVID the whole time. He knows his stuff on that. But I want to read this tweet that he sent out a couple days ago that has nothing to do with that. He said, the Fed just announced it will introduce its FedNow central bank digital currency.
Don't like that.
In July, they have announced this. CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, grease the slippery slope to financial slavery and political tyranny. A CBDC tied to digital ID and social credit score will allow the government to freeze your assets or limit your spending to approved vendors if you fail to comply with arbitrary dictates, i.e., vaccine mandates.
Wow.
The dude knows what he's talking about.
He's going to appeal to a lot of people across the political spectrum.
Yes.
We'll be watching to see how he progresses. You should also be watching how the Annie Frey Show progresses, because we've got another hour of news, information, fun, and frivolity right here on 97.1 FM Talk. Brad Young sitting in for Annie Frey. Stick around.
Stewart's American Mortgage at 314-324-4440 is your friend when it comes to the mortgage business. You partner with Stewie at Stewart's American Mortgage, and he introduces you to the bagel loan. Nobody else out there right now has the bagel loan. It's just Stewie's. He named it. It's his baby. I have used it twice with refinances on my home, but you can use it as well to make a purchase. If you are out there trying to compete in this kind of wild and crazy real estate market, and you found the house that you want to make your home, Stewie can help you through that process. Become the most competitive buyer submitting an offer with Stewie. Here's one of the things that he does. Once you get your pre-approval done, so you know what you were pre-approved for, you can generate your own pre-approval letters on his website. You don't have to wait for a third party to generate these letters for you. It's at your fingertips. You don't have to pay, when you get the bagel loan, closing costs that everybody else is going to charge you for. He's going to save you thousands of dollars to make you a more competitive buyer. 314-324-4440. You can Google the bagel loan, NMLS number 226715.
Hi. This is Brian with Velocity Home Buyers, and I buy houses cash. If you own a house and want to sell it fast at a fair price, call me at 314-782-3333. I can pay cash and close in as little as 7 days. I buy houses in any condition and any price range in the St. Louis area. I'm a private real estate investor who buys several houses a month, and I want to buy more. I buy inherited houses, divorce houses, behind in payment houses. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. Do you own a house that needs updating, but you don't have the time or money for it? Great, because I love buying outdated houses. I buy vacant houses, job relocation houses, and foreclosure houses. If you own a house and want to sell it fast, call me at 314-782-3333. That's 314-782-3333.
We've been here 30 years, 30 Christmases in this house, and we have the traditions that most families have.
That's Terry talking about her experience with Rhino Shield ceramic coating.
We did Rhino Shield 14 years ago, and the house still looks the same as the first day. Rhino Shield really worked with me to help me get just the right nice soft yellow, and it's 14 years later, and it's the same color.
The main reason Terry called Rhino Shield is because it's backed by its 25-year transferable warranty.
It just sounded wonderful that we could have the house coated with Rhino Shield and not have to worry about it again for 25 years.
Take it from Terry. Give Rhino Shield a call now for a free evaluation. 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO. Or visit 877-25rhino.com.
There have been neighbors that have come by and said, "Did you just have your house painted?" Because they wanted to know who the contractor was. And I said, "No, it's actually Rhino Shield."
877-25rhino.com.
KFTK FM Florissant. From the Under Law Injury Lawyers, GetJim.com studio. 97.1 FM Talk. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Finger-pointing at the White House. On Lisa Brady, Fox News. A newly released summary from the Biden administration largely blames the previous administration for the chaotic troop withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021.
Transitions matter. That's the first lesson learned here. And the incoming administration wasn't afforded much of one.
Reporters pushing back during a White House briefing with National Security Council spokesman John Kirby, noting that President Biden had 8 months of his own planning.
He acted on the best military judgment and the best assessments from the intelligence community as he could, as he made these decisions going forward. And some of those assessments turned out to be wrong.
Kirby says no agency predicted the swift fall of the Afghan government and Taliban takeover. He also says the after-action reports have been submitted to Congress for review. The U.S. Supreme Court is allowing a 12-year-old transgender girl in West Virginia to continue competing on her middle school sports teams while a lawsuit over a state ban continues. The High Court refusing to lift an appeals court stay on a law that bans trans students from competing on school teams that don't match their gender assigned at birth. China says the California meeting between Taiwan's president and U.S. lawmakers, including the House Speaker, seriously violates the One China principle.
The U.S. and the PRC have differences when it comes to Taiwan, but we've managed those differences for over 40 years.
Deputy State Department spokesman Vedant Patel, as the Biden administration insists there's been no change in policy and that nothing uncommon has happened in President Tsai's transit through the U.S. China has sent several ships near Taiwan as another bipartisan group of U.S. lawmakers visits the island, led by House Foreign Affairs Committee Chair Mike McCall, who plans to meet with President Tsai as she returns from the U.S. America is listening to Fox News.
When you're an innovative business, every blinking cursor, every blank page is an opportunity. What will you do with it? Will you make something better? Or create something new? Our Dell Technologies advisors provide you with tools and expertise to do incredible things. Because we believe there's an innovator in all of us. For advice on smart PCs powered by Intel V Pro that's built for business, call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL.
Heart failure, carpal tunnel syndrome, shortness of breath, stomach issues, lower back pain. How does it all add up? If you have heart failure and any of those seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, it's time to talk with your cardiologist and get the full picture. They may add up to transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy. ATTR-CM is a rare and underdiagnosed disease. Recognize the signs and discuss them with your doctor soon. Learn more at connectwithyourheart.com. That's connectwithyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
Cool times this afternoon. We should peak out at about 58 degrees with a bit of a changeable sky, a mix of clouds and sunshine with a light northwest flow. Tonight, partly to mostly cloudy skies, down to 34 degrees. Friday, plenty of sunshine, a nippy start, but 63 Friday afternoon. Saturday, nice, partly sunny, 68. Even better for Easter Sunday, partly sunny and 75. This is 97.1 FM Talk Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Thomas Helbig, Bob Kershaw, Tammy Kershaw, the family business at the Retirement Advisory Group. Call them now for a no-cost, no-obligation retirement review and get a copy of his best-selling book. It's the second edition, Your Key to a Worry-Free Retirement. This book is going to show you how to retire with confidence. And Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw are going to help walk you across that line from where you are right now. You're in your late 50s. You know, retirement is right around the corner. And you're thinking, how do I make this change? How do I make this shift? Well, you have the people on your team that can help you do that to make sure that your nest egg is protected. Thomas Helbig has been helping people for decades do this very thing. And with the uncertainty that exists in the economy right now, you want to make sure that you're not trying to time it right. And like musical chairs, have a chair when the music runs out and stops. Thomas Helbig can help you with that. Get an appointment today. 314-993-9494. 314-993-9494. retirementkey.com.
I'm Dr. Nick Barnes at Health From Within Family Chiropractic in Rock Hill. At Health From Within, our mission is to transform the way you manage your health by bringing you the truth about health and healing. We use proven techniques to remove interference in the nervous system and maximize health naturally, without drugs or surgery. Connect with me at healthfromwithinstl.com And join me for Maximize Living on this station every Sunday at 8 a.m. or download the Maximize Living podcast, Health from Within, STL.com.
You had a solid retirement dream. Sell your home in a few years, bank the equity, downsize, and travel. But inflation and recession has you wondering if all your hard-earned equity will still be there. What if you could recession-proof your equity right now? You can with TrueHold. TrueHold will buy your home for its best current value before a recession can erode it. You get to bank all the cash now and live in your home for as long as you want. And TrueHold covers all property taxes, insurance, repairs, and maintenance. And since TrueHold pays your home's current value in cash now, it's yours to do whatever you'd like. Don't wait for inflation, recession, and interest rates to erode your home's value. Visit TrueHold.com and discover how much TrueHold will buy your home for today based on its best current value, not what's coming. Call 1-855-300-9993 or visit TrueHold.com. The smarter, faster way to cash out on your home's value without having to move. That's TrueHold.com.
There are over 10,000 reasons why steel is not sold at Lowe's or the Home Depot. Find tools for the job site or your own backyard at over 10,000 authorized local steel dealers. Find yours at SteelUSA.com.
The only person who can change your life is you, but you need to know how. Listen to my show, The Del Walmsley Radio Show, where the hype ends and the help begins.
Listen to the Del Walmsley Radio Show this Saturday afternoon from 1 to 2 p.m. on 97.1 FM Talk.
Big ideas, real debate, solid entertainment. You found it here.
St. Louis's home for conservative talk.
97.1 FM Talk.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Don't get me wrong. I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom. It is Anchor Man, not Anchor Lady.
What do you want from me? I'm not America's sweetheart.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
I'm not America's sweetheart.
This is the Annie Frey Show.
Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. Brad Young sitting in today, of course, with Ryan Wiggins and Brad Range. And during the break, I was reviewing some of the comments on the YouTube channel. And there's a lot of interesting comments. And so if you want to go, obviously the polling is up there right now. Should Donald Trump's trial be televised, yes or no? And you can not just weigh in on a yes or no, but why? And that's more important. But as I was looking through some of the comments, somebody actually mentioned a topic that I had next here in my stack of stuff to discuss, and that is the IRS. Now, we know last year the IRS got an $80 billion, that's 80 with a B, billion dollar increase in funding. And the question became, what are they going to spend that money on? And just yesterday, Janet Yellen came out and gave some general numbers as to what the IRS is going to spend this $80 billion on that they now have to spend. $3.1 billion to answer the phones. $3.1 billion.
Ooh, I could do that.
You know, if they wanted to pay me to answer the phones, I'd do it for just $1 billion.
Me too.
You know, I would look at how much money we could save. You wouldn't have to spend $3 billion. Just give me $1 billion. I'll answer all the phones.
Me and you together could answer probably all the phones for $2 billion.
Oh, look at all the money we could save the government.
Mm-hmm.
We could make a decent profit. We'll just call it a decent,
you and I.
Right? An ethical profit margin of $2 billion. And we'd save the government an extra $1 billion. Look,
the voters are crazy for not going with that. That's money in their pockets that we could be putting right back in. Right back to them.
Right, and not charge them a thing except for the $2 billion for the answering.
That's
the phones.
all.
But that's it. A measly $2 billion. They won't even miss it. Right.
Yep.
So that's $3 billion to answer the phones, $4.8 billion to purchase new technologies, $25 billion for operations. Now, they don't say what operations are, but $25 billion, you can do a lot of operating for $25 billion.
I mean, you could do a lot of operating for $20 billion.
Again, saving money all over the place. But here's the part. Here's the part that I want to focus on.
Ryan, this is a professional radio show.
I know.
Is it? Yes, it is.
So the goal.
This is the goal. And then $45 billion for audits. $45 billion for additional audits. Who do you think is the most audited group of taxpayers in this country?
Anybody with the word patriot in their not-for-profit title.
Good idea. Good suggestion.
I'm going to go with small businesses.
Small businesses. That's another good idea. Both are good ideas, but both are wrong.
Ooh, okay.
And you would also think that, well, I'm sure that millionaires and billionaires are the most audited. Again, wrong answer. The most audited group in America are people who earn $40,000 a year and less.
Oh my gosh, that actually really surprises me.
Wow.
I would have thought it would have been people in the range of 100 to 200,000.
Nope.
40,000
and less. So
because they have no defense.
That's exactly right. Okay. And I'm looking at the numbers right now. When you look at high income wage earners for fiscal year 2020, and sometimes I know numbers are hard to discuss on the radio, but for the fiscal year 2020, out of every 1,000 audits, what's called high income, or everyone else, rather, let me start it this way. Out of every 1,000 audits, 8 out of 1,000 were done for people who are low income, 2 out of 1,000 for everybody else. Out of every 1,000 taxpayers, you take every 1,000 number of taxpayers, who gets audited? 8 get audited who are low income, 2 get audited for everybody else. Middle income, high income.
So of the 10 people theoretically that are being audited.
Right.
80% or 8 of them are low income.
Correct.
That is remarkable.
But it actually makes a lot of sense if you think about it for 2 reasons. Number one, there's a lot more lower income people than there are higher income people. Higher income somebody gets, the fewer number of people there are. So if you're going to go after the masses, if you're going to try from the IRS's perspective, how do we get money? We're going to go after the most amount of people, which is lower income people. That's why, again, the government is not our friend. But secondly, if you're going to audit somebody, who would you rather audit if you're the IRS? Someone that has the money to hire tax lawyers and accountants to delay, deny, and not pay? Or someone who's going to say, I don't have the resources to fight this, so I'll just give you whatever you're asking for because I don't have the ability to defend myself.
Man, if you were going to mug somebody on the street.
Exactly. Do you go after the Marine or do you go after the elderly?
This is disgusting.
This is sick because that's going on right now, right?
That's going on right now.
That's not with this extra.
No. So that's going on right now. So as the government adds $45 billion more for audits, they're going to simply increase what they've been doing consistently over the history of the IRS, which is go after lower to middle income individuals, and they're going to go after fewer and fewer higher and ultra high income individuals.
Yeah. And even though they're going to get more money, they're going to have more money. So theoretically, they'd have more resources to go after these high income earners that they always say that they want to go after and make them pay their fair share.
Pay their fair share.
Yeah. Even though they would have those resources, it would still be more efficient to go after the people that cannot defend themselves.
Exactly. Because Brad Range, it's exactly what you said. It's like a mugging.
Mm-hmm.
And people, big Marines who are well armed, never get mugged because they can defend themselves. But the frail and the defenseless do get mugged. And the same concept is true financially.
I don't believe you.
You know,
the Speaker of the House, former Speaker of the House,
yes,
Nancy Pelosi, the Leader of the Senate, Chuck Schumer, and the President of the United States all told me that they were doing this to try to go after the rich guy. And what you're telling me can't be true because all the resources they currently have now, they've not used to go after the rich guy. So
right.
it would make sense that because it's not as if they have no resources right now.
No, right before this bill went into place, there were more IRS agents than there were FBI agents, Department of Homeland Security agents, and Border Security agents combined.
So what you're telling me is all of those IRS agents right now were not enough. They had to be putting those on lower income individuals.
Yes.
And now that they're going to have more money for more IRS agents, what they're telling me now is that now they can finally go after the rich people.
Yeah, that's not going to happen because the same reasons or the same motivations are going to be at play. And so for the history of the IRS, if they find it easier and more financially expedient to go after the lower income individuals, why would that change if your goal in the IRS is to bring more money into the government, into the treasury coffers? You're going to do the same thing that's worked for you in the past. You're not going to suddenly change tactics. You're not going to start mugging the Marines. You're going to continue to go after the old and the frail.
Well, and here's my other question, too. It's like, 87,000 new agents and all this extra money to go after the billionaires is what the claim was, right?
What the claim was.
Do you guys know how many billionaires there were in the United States as of 2020?
Yeah, not a lot. How many?
614.
Right.
So they need 87,000 new agents to go after 614 individuals. There's going to be a lot of those agents twiddling their thumbs.
Exactly.
Or they're going to continue to do what they've been doing.
Yeah, exactly. Because what they've been doing works. I don't even do my own taxes. So I've never done my own taxes. So when I go, this was years ago, actually an accountant before the one I'm currently using. I went and we would go over my taxes because my taxes are complicated. And I go through them. And at the end, I said to him one time, I said, do I have to worry about being audited? Because I always want to make sure I do everything according to the law. I want to pay the least amount of taxes I can legally. So we went over it. We do all these strategies. And I asked him, do I face much of a risk of being audited? And he laughed. And I said, why are you laughing? He said, well, attorneys never get audited. Attorneys never get audited. And I asked him, I said, why? Because generally speaking, attorneys are higher wage earners. Why would attorneys never get audited?
Because you don't mug a black belt.
Exactly. And the guy specifically, my accountant, said to me, attorneys never get audited because they know you'll fight back. And we're not going to audit you because you're going to come back with resources to block any sort of an audit. So they're never going to touch you. They're never going to mess with you.
Wow.
And that stuck in me. That thought stuck with me because I thought, now that we're going to be adding billions of dollars, $80 billion of more resources to the IRS, that same philosophy is still going to be at play. So all of these people who have been duped to say, I'm going to vote for the Democrat because the Democrat's promising to stick it to the wealthy, to stick it to the corporations, to stick it to the billionaires, to make them pay their fair share. What they're really doing is they're voting for people who will make it more likely that they themselves will be audited.
How much was the total increase again? Was it 80 billion?
80 billion.
So the rationale is I'm going to spend 80 billion of your dollars to try to get more money out of the billionaires because we're going to stick it to the billionaires?
But that was the rationale.
If you took all of their money.
All 600 of them.
So they really want to stick it to the billionaires. So they're going to take all the money from all the other people who are currently paying taxes to pay for that increase.
Exactly.
To go after the billionaires.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm following you.
You're following.
I have a better idea. All right. This is a more economical idea. This is a better idea, and this is going to eliminate fraud. What if we went with a flat tax? You need way less IRS. People are way less likely to cheat on their taxes. You just report your income and pay your taxes.
Whoa, Steve Forbes.
Whoa.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
You know what? I'm really glad. I'm proud of you, Brad, because what you did when you were talking to your tax attorney or tax accountant is that you answered just what he needed to know. He said, you said, am I going to get audited? And he said, no. Are you an attorney? You said, yes. You did not add, but I'm ideologically conservative.
No.
Because if you had said that, he might have said, all bets are off.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Never mind.
Exactly. Well, thankfully, the name of my law firm isn't the Patriot Law Firm or anything like that. That's that because then you would be guaranteed to be audited. At least if Lois Lerner was running the IRS.
And your last name isn't Seculo.
Exactly. No kidding. No kidding. But I find that interesting because one of the things that conservatives are always people complain about conservatives about being, oh, you're always talking about taxes. You're always talking about taxes. Well, the reason why I always talk about taxes is because taxes represent the mindset of the entity that you're dealing with. So what was it Ronald Reagan said? If you want to kill something, tax it. If you want to kill something, regulate it. If you want to slow it down, regulate it. If you want to kill it, tax it. I forgot the exact quote. But it really exemplified the philosophy. And if you look at this government now, this government is saying we're going to increase all of these IRS agents, but the net effect is going to be going after the people that are saying others aren't paying their fair share. And that's the other question. I've had people, when I'm on KMOX and we take a lot of phone calls, I've had people call up and say, you're an attorney, you make a lot of money, you ought to pay your fair share. Here's what I've said. Okay, let's go down this road. You tell me what is my fair share. Give me a number. Tell me, what is your fair share? Nobody will ever define what is your fair share. If you look at the national debate, that same argument happens. When people say the rich have to pay their fair share. Okay, define for me what is a fair share. It'll never be defined because the left always wants the, quote, fair share, unquote, to be non-defined so that it can be changed based upon circumstances.
So they can say that you're not paying your fair share.
Right. No matter what you pay, I can always say the fair share is higher than what you're paying.
Because the tax rate for higher income earners is higher.
Of course.
Like you pay a greater percentage as you earn more money. So if you want to say fair, to me, fair is everybody pays the same percentage.
Exactly.
But that's not what fair is to them. Fair to them is more.
Graduated.
Well, during the Kennedy administration, do you realize that during the John F. Kennedy administration, the top end tax rate was 70%. 70%. Now, if you want to talk about a policy that kills innovation, that kills businesses, that destroys entire industries, you tax somebody and say you only get to keep 30% of what you make, and of that 30%, state and local is going to take another 5 to 10%. And so you get to keep 20 cents of every dollar you make. Who's going to make any dollars at that rate?
I got to hand it to real, avowed, open socialists in the United States. Because when you press them on that question of, well, what is fair share? They will answer that question. And they'll say, well, above a certain amount, 90%.
Yeah.
And when they say that, they lose everybody.
Right.
But at least they're putting a number to it.
They're being honest.
And the ideology behind that is you don't need that much money.
Yeah, everybody can spend that money.
But we need, like, and that's to your point. If you want to kill something, tax it. Well, if you're not going to be able to reap the rewards of whatever it is that you're producing, you're not going to put in the effort.
No, I'm not going to produce it if I can't make any money on it.
But society needs you to produce that. Society, whether people want to admit it or not, society needs billionaires. They need entrepreneurs. They need people like that who are risk takers, who are successful people to create jobs, to create all this other stuff. If you start killing them off because they're doing too well, playing by the rules, you're going to kill your country. You're going to kill your economy.
Well,
if you want to look at a country that they did that, they tried it, they had a great economy, they tried this. Guess what that country's name is?
Cuba?
Venezuela.
Oh, Venezuela, sure.
Oh,
absolutely.
my gosh.
Yep.
One of the most oil-rich countries in the Western Hemisphere.
Right. And now they're eating zebras out of the zoo because the economy is in such shambles. It's atrocious. But there's actually a great book about this. I've never been able to get through the entire book. It's Ayn Rand wrote it in the 1920s or 30s, and it's called Atlas Shrugged.
Oh, I thought you were talking about a different one called Zebra Eater.
Zebra Eater. Well, I've not read that one, but I heard that it might go well with some, Andrea's steak sauce.
Maybe the barbecue sauce.
Don't tell Andrea's we did that.
No, I won't. We'll edit that out. Don't worry. We'll edit that out. Not a problem.
Oh, I heard you said we could put some steak sauce on
zebras. Yeah, I don't think that's going in the next live read. But the point of that book is what happens if all the producers of the economy simply say we're not going to do it any longer. That's the concept of the book.
That's what socialists cannot fathom. And they do not believe that people would do that.
But if you're going to take 90 cents out of every dollar I earn,
yes.
I'm not going to earn diddly squat.
Yes.
I'm not going to do it.
I did this whenever I was teaching economics. I told the kids, I said, what we're going to do is after they took their first test, I said, what we're going to do is we're going to take an average of all the tests and we're going to spread those averages out evenly so that we'll average the grades.
This is great.
And they're like, oh, cool, awesome. And then the next quiz, we did it again. And I said, I'm going to average these out and it'll be fine. I'm going to average these out. And I did it. And as they did it, like the kids that were the A students, they're like, why am I studying if I'm just going to get a B anyway?
Yeah,
why? And then
or
it
a
was,
C.
I'm getting a C. Then everybody was getting an F. Now I threw those quizzes out and I said, what did we learn?
Right.
But, you can't punish people for achieving and being excellent.
No.
You encourage that.
But you can, and that's why Dr. Jill Biden invited Iowa, the loser of the women's NCAA tournament, to the White House.
I love what LSU did here.
And what did they do?
They told them to go pound sand. We're not going to come see you.
Exactly.
She actually said, I think we're going to go visit the Obamas
That's
instead.
what she said. They said we're going to go visit the Obamas.
Wow.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is that when you've got this idea of liberalism that says there are no winners and there are no losers and everyone gets participation prizes.
Equity.
It's not equity. It's not fairness. Equity of outcome is not the same as equity of opportunity. Those two things are not synonymous, but the left wants you to think that it is. One of the things that we have to do, speaking of economics, is to take a break. So when we come back from this break, there's more with the Annie Frey Show. Brad Young, Ryan Wiggins, Brad Range. We'll be back right after this.
On a cloudy day, when it's cold outside, I've got the month of May.
YouTube and subscribe. You're listening to The Annie Frey Show. Interact with Annie on Facebook. The Annie Frey Show.
Stop everything you're doing right now and ask yourself, are you currently receiving steady paychecks? What about when you're retired? Will you receive a monthly check to cover your expenses and also have some fun? Marvin Mitchell and the team at Compass Retirement Solutions calls this mailbox money. It's a monthly check you'll receive throughout retirement. They don't want you to worry about if the money will show up or how much money you'll receive. The only thing they want you to think about is how to spend it when it arrives. Find out how to get enough money in your mailbox every month when you're retired. Call Marvin Mitchell and the Compass Retirement Solutions team at 314-373-1598 to start working on a plan that can help you create the monthly income you'll need in retirement. Call 314-373-1598 right now and schedule a visit with Compass Retirement Solutions. 314-373-1598. Firm offers insurance services. Investments and services offered through Compass Retirement Group, a registered investment advisory in Missouri and Illinois.
If you like radically honest stories, you'll love the podcast Risk. Risk is where people tell true stories they never thought they'd dare to share. Like the one about the guy who cooked and served his own leg to his friends as tacos. Or the woman who found out the person she was sharing kinky fantasies with online was her dad. If you think you've heard it all, just wait till you hear Risk. Available now on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Did you know the IRS is a super creditor? Hi, I'm Lance Drury with the Lance Drury Law Firm. The IRS is the only creditor that can create a bill for you without your permission, then drop the hammer and aggressively collect it by wiping out your bank account, seizing your assets, and levying your wages. No other creditor can do that, and this can all happen without a court approval. If you owe back taxes, you need to be prepared to face the super creditor. Don't just sit back and take it. Fight back. At the Lance Drury Law Firm, we know how to use the laws to your advantage and go toe-to-toe with the IRS. Our office is located right here in St. Louis. Contact the Lance Drury Law Firm today for a free consultation with me or visit us at lancedrurylaw.com or call 314-260-6120. That's 314-260-6120 to get started.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
When you're an innovative business, every blinking cursor, every blank page is an opportunity. What will you do with it? Will you make something better or create something new? Our Dell Technologies advisors provide you with tools and expertise to do incredible things. Because we believe there's an innovator in all of us. For advice on smart PCs powered by Intel vPro that's built for business, call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL.
Heart failure, carpal tunnel syndrome, shortness of breath, stomach issues, lower back pain. How does it all add up? If you have heart failure and any of those seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, it's time to talk with your cardiologist and get the full picture. They may add up to transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy. ATTR-CM is a rare and underdiagnosed disease. Recognize the signs and discuss them with your doctor soon. Learn more at connectwithyourheart.com. That's connectwithyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Who will dare to find a new way to think about energy? One that connects our lives like never before and creates a world where we can breathe easy. NewScale dared by making 24/7 carbon-free energy a reality with our Voyager SMR power plants. Let's see how bright the future can be when cleaner, safer energy is available to all. NewScale. Power to the world. Power for all humankind. Discover the future of energy at newscalepower.com.
Download the Odyssey app to listen to 97.1 FM Talk and find content that moves you. Anytime, anywhere. The Odyssey app for 97.1 FM Talk on the go. You're listening to The Annie Frey Show.
Welcome back to The Annie Frey Show. Brad Young in for Annie today. And before the break, we were chatting. We mentioned about Venezuelans eating zebras, but I do have to bring up one related topic, and that is, and maybe this is just me, but all of the focus on cloning and bringing back woolly mammoths. We've seen about this. There's a company in Texas that claims they're going to clone a woolly mammoth and have it born within the next year and a half.
Oh, I didn't realize they were actually going to bring the animal back.
Yeah. And what they do, they've isolated the DNA. I mean, it's straight out of Jurassic Park. Mm-hmm. They've isolated the DNA. They're going to put it into an egg of an elephant, of an Asian elephant, and they're going to allow this Asian elephant to give birth to a woolly mammoth. That's the plan. And I'm convinced, and it's being done in Texas, and since it's being done in Texas, I'm convinced that the entire purpose of bringing back the woolly mammoth is so somebody in Texas can put it on a barbecue and say, I'm eating a woolly mammoth.
Can't believe that you brought this up.
I'm convinced of that.
Because I thought that where you're going with this is a separate news story, and I don't know that this is Texas. This is somewhere else outside the United States. That they've started creating, because they've got the DNA.
I'm catching up here. Did you say we could eat a woolly mammoth?
It's being done. It's being done in Texas.
So this company, again, don't remember where, they're creating, just like they do with fake lab meat, they're creating woolly mammoth meatballs to eat.
Yeah.
They really are. And you can eat them right now. I mean, that
you can eat them right now.
I don't know if you know this, but they exist.
Well, I was just
within our universe.
I'm going to say that's bologna sauce.
No, it's real.
I don't think it's actual woolly mammoth meat.
It can't be,
even if it's
woolly
cloned.
mammoths don't exist yet.
And how are you going to know? Wait a minute, this isn't woolly mammoth meat.
But if you look at this company in Texas,
actually rat meat.
They're going to have a real woolly mammoth within the next 18 months, and I'm convinced, since it's from Texas, that the whole purpose is to put it on a barbecue. So a guy can say, I've eaten a woolly mammoth.
I'm reading this from the Smithsonian Magazine. This massive meatball was made with woolly mammoth DNA. Meant to be a more sustainable animal meat, this lab-grown alternative might offer a glimpse into the future of food production.
Hey, this makes this. I've got a question for you guys. This is completely off the wall. I am very much against lab-grown meat, but I would think that I would be open to trying exotic types of meat if it was grown in a lab, because like we joked about like zebra meat or elephant meat or something like that. Would you try this? Because these are endangered species and you're not allowed to hunt them or anything like that, but would you try it if it was lab grown?
In a New York minute.
If it was lab grown, sure.
What about you, Hannah?
No.
No.
No exotic meat for me.
I got to tell you this. There's a place now, we're close enough that I'm like, make a road trip. There's a place in Louisville, Kentucky called The Game. We randomly stopped there, me and my wife, during COVID era because we wanted to go to a red state because we figured it'd be open.
Yeah.
So for our anniversary in August of 2020, we drove to Louisville and we found this restaurant there and everything was open. It was pretty normal there. It was oddly right after the Breonna Taylor stuff was going on. And we were in Louisville like right at that time. We're like, oh, okay. But we found this restaurant called The Game. And we're going to go back there this summer because it was so good. They have meatballs from every animal you can think of that's legal. One of them, the one we remember the most, alpaca.
I'd try it.
We did.
Yeah.
Terrible. Yeah. Absolutely awful. But they had other ones like elk and, ones that you wouldn't try as much.
Elk.
I can't remember. They have some this time that we looked it up that they didn't last time, like kangaroo that we're going to try.
Yeah, but have you ever smelled an alpaca? I mean, come on.
I have not.
I would not want to. I got a friend of mine that raises them. They smell bad, and if they smell that bad, I don't want to know how they taste.
Well, you don't, because it was like eating a sponge.
Ew.
Yeah.
Well, we're
Of course, this is a segment that I come in on.
Well, listen, we're welcoming Hannah Gibbs.
It was the old bait and switch, Hannah.
It was a bait and switch. But listen, we got off topic, okay, because
this
I couldn't
is
resist.
not what Brad said we were going to discuss.
I couldn't resist having a discussion about bringing back the woolly mammoth for the sole purpose of eating it. All right, so I couldn't resist. But here's really what I wanted to talk about. We had a poll that came out last week, and the poll was polling Americans on issues related to patriotism, religious faith, having children, and other topics that have traditionally defined the character of Americans. And
I'll talk about that.
Okay. And also eating alpacas is on here. It's truly in this
poll. Is it really? Because I can speak to that. Maybe Hannah can do that stuff and I'll do the alpaca stuff.
But it's done by it's done by the University of Chicago. And here are some of the results. And I want to compare it and show you how things have changed. Because when this question was first asked in 1999, 70% of Americans said that patriotism was important. 62% said religion was important. Today, now, again, 70% said patriotism was important in 98. Today, it's 38%.
Wow.
In 1998, 62% said religion was important to them. Today, it's 39%.
That is fast.
So in a very short period of time, we've seen this plummeting. Even tolerance of others. 4 years ago, 80% of Americans said tolerance for others is an important quality. 80% said that 4 years ago. Today, it's 58%. So what I wanted to throw out for a discussion is, number one, have you seen in your own experience a similar type of drop in values as you talk to people, as you interact with others? Have you noticed a changing in values? And number two, the question is why, if you've seen that kind of a change of values, why is that happening?
Hannah?
Thank you. I have seen a drop. I can't believe it's that much. That's really sad. If I had to think of what the root problem of all this is, I would say social media, especially when it comes to the tolerating people. That probably dropped because if it was 4 years ago, COVID, you didn't have to deal with people. You were at home. And social media, people say and do what they want behind a screen and then never say anything really to your face. When it comes to the lack of patriotism, our country's just become more divisive. So I guess I understand why those numbers have dropped. I'm not in agreement with it dropping at all, but I believe that it has. And what was the other one that we were talking about?
Well, it's also tolerance of others, but we're going to go to a break here. And what I want to ask, because we're going to come back to this topic, because I want to hear from Ryan and Brad Range as well. But I also want to hear from you. So go to our YouTube channel right now, Annie Frey, on the YouTube channel. Post your comments. Have you seen a drop in patriotism, religiousness in this country, and tolerance for others? Have you personally experienced it? Is that a good trend? Is that a bad trend? And why is it happening? Brad Young sitting in for Annie Frey. We'll be back right after this on the conservative voice of St. Louis, 97.1 FM Talk.
This is the Annie Frey Show. Interact with Annie on Facebook. The Annie Frey Show.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin.
Sherlock Holmes, we have a new mystery. My dear Watson, what conundrum requires our sleuthing? It's these high gas prices, Sherlock. How do I stop paying too much at the pump? Elementary, Watson. Simply use the cashback app, Upside. The Upside app has eluded my attention. Oh, come now, Watson. Upside is the revolutionary app that's free to download, and you get real cashback for every gallon of gas you buy. I use it all the time, and I've already made around $200. So you can really make cash back just for buying the gas you have to buy anyway. Precisely, my dear Watson. I have the app open now. Look, there's a gas station not far from here offering 25 cents per gallon cash back. Sherlock, you've done it again. I will now use the Upside app and earn cash back on every gallon of gas I buy.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code HOMES to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, to PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code HOMES for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code HOMES for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
If you own a small business, you know the value of time. GetRefunds.com does too. That's why they've made it easy, no matter how busy you are, to apply for the Employee Retention Credit, or ERC. Go to GetRefunds.com to get started, and in less than 8 minutes, see if your business qualifies for ERC assistance. Your business may be eligible for a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee kept on payroll during COVID-19. GetRefunds.com has already helped clients claim over $3 billion in payroll tax refunds through the ERC. And they may be able to help your business too. There's no upfront charge either. They don't get paid until your business gets its refund. Many businesses believe they won't qualify based off incomplete or outdated information, so don't let this opportunity pass you by, because this payroll tax refund is only available for a limited time. Go to GetRefunds.com. That's GetRefunds.com.
Hey, it's Mark Reardon from my friends at Zero Res. Let's talk about spring allergies. Did you know that as many as 1 in 5 Americans suffer from allergies caused by particles frequently found in the air inside most homes? Not only is indoor air quality an issue year-round, but especially now that allergens like pollen are coming out of hibernation, ready to invade your home, it's even more important. It's also National Pet Month. Love your pet, but don't love the dander. So let's do something about it. Zero Res has a 12-step professional source removal process that guarantees your home will be clean to the highest standards. Not only will the air duct cleaning help this allergy season, but you're going to enjoy less dust, lower energy bills, and your home's going to stay cleaner longer. You owe it to yourself and your home to get rid of the dust bunnies and breathe happy, healthy, and clean air. Zero Res has a great offer for the month of April. Take $75 off your air duct cleaning. Also, 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at $129. Call now, mention my name or 97.1 FM Talk. 314-474-2020. Online, ZeroResSTL.com.
Hi, it's Scott and Andrea from Best Buy Flooring. Andrea, what are you doing on that pogo stick?
Scott, I'm springing into savings at Best Buy Flooring.
Right, because we have new spring deals on carpet, luxury vinyl, ceramic tile, carpet tile, laminate, sheet vinyl, and hardwood.
Don't forget free financing for qualified purchasers.
2 locations, 7301 North Lindbergh in Hazelwood, Missouri, and 1851 West US Highway 50 in O'Fallon, Illinois. Open 7 days a week. Best flooring, best selection, Best Buy Flooring.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Installation Studio. Air Comfort Service is celebrating 54 years of residential and commercial service, maintenance, and installation of heating and cooling systems. Get in your comfort zone. Visit aircomfortservice.com.
St. Louis's home for conservative talk.
The Mark Reardon Show.
You know, the concept of 3D printing makes my brain hurt, so we're going to find out a little bit more about it with Trent Esser from Printeria 3D Printing in St. Louis Thursday afternoon.
On 97.1 FM Talk. Weekdays from 3 to 6. The Annie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
Speaking of the streaming online, there's some fantastic discussions going on right now on the YouTube channel talking about this topic, about the change of values. And I want to come back to this because Hannah was talking about this change of values and how you've seen it. And before we move to the rest of the room, Hannah, I don't think you had finished before I kind of interrupted you. So have you seen this change of values? And particularly among people your age group, do you see it different than what you might imagine older individuals would think regarding patriotism or faith or even something like having children?
I absolutely see it in my generation more than anyone in particular. I am, social media has just totally fleshed out our generation. I don't see kids. I don't even know if my friends will have kids of their own. That's just not a thing. People don't even prioritize marriage anymore. So
yeah, 23, according to this poll, only 23% of adults under 30 said that having children was important. Only 23%. That's extremely low.
That is very, very low and worrisome to me. But yeah, my generation doesn't tolerate anything. I'm worried for our future.
Well, Brad Range, in 1972, the publisher of the New York Times stated that she didn't know anyone who voted for Richard Nixon, even though he won by the largest numeric landslide in the history of politics, because everyone that she surrounded herself with were all people of very like-minded values. Right. So from your perspective, and I know a lot of times Christians or conservatives or Christian conservatives or others, we surround ourselves with like-minded people sometimes, so we may not really understand the trends that are going on in the broader community. Have you seen a change of values?
Oh, for sure, in the community. Not necessarily just I haven't seen it as much in my tight-knit community, my church family and stuff like that, but my church is fairly conservative. But as you and when I say conservative, I don't mean politically speaking. I mean biblically speaking. They're biblical literalists. Mm-hmm. We believe what the Bible says is the truth as the Word of God. So, but I have noticed within denominations, you're starting to see churches slide out and move out and get away from the Word of God. I see that happening in a broader sense. There was a trans pastor that was trying to compare the school shooter in Nashville to Jesus. And I'm like, this is not the way. This isn't it, but I'm seeing that sort of thing happen. Is it prevalent among the church? It's not as prevalent, but you're starting to see a move away. But that's because society and culture in itself is creeping into the church. Mm-hmm. And rather than the church affecting society, society's starting to affect the church. And I've got a lot of thoughts on why that is, but we definitely don't have enough time to get into all of that.
That is happening.
But as far as people that I work with, people that I play softball with, I definitely see a difference in values. Mm-hmm. Heck, you see it on social media too, and what's popular and what's trending. Speaking to like the low value on marriage, men are checking out. Men are like, there's nothing in marriage for me. So what I'm going to do is just bed as many women as possible, and that's what makes me a man. Work on improving myself and doing this, but I'm not looking for a wife. Women have changed, and they're trying to, in general, they're being more masculine in the sense that they've been sexually liberated, so they're sleeping with a bunch of guys. Guys aren't interested in that. The traditional
values are changing.
Yeah, the values have changed, so nobody's getting married anymore because they don't see the value in it. They don't understand the value in it because they look at it as a business transaction. They don't understand the truth of what marriage actually is.
That's very important. Ryan Wiggins, I had a situation last week where my wife was selling something on Facebook Marketplace. So this lady comes to our house to buy something that my wife was selling. And at my house, I've got a large American flag that's flying, and I've got it on the front of my house. And so she comes to my house, and I'm going to help her put this stuff in her car. And she said, "Oh, were you in the military?" And I said, "Do I look like I've ever been in the military?" I said, "No, I haven't." I said, "Why do you ask?" She said, "Well, you have a flag flying." And I asked her, I said, "Do you think that only people in the military are patriotic?" And she said, "Well, she said, I was in the military, but the only people I ever see flying a flag are people in the military." And I thought that was very instructive. It just happened a week or two ago. But have you seen this change of values, whether it's with patriotism, with faith, with the traditional American values? Have you seen that erode, just like this poll, I think, nails it when it gives that analysis.
Yeah, I think the poll is exactly right. It's roughly half of what it was 4 years ago, people saying that tolerance, religious faith, patriotism are important to them. And I think that those things are intrinsically linked as well, because when you don't have religious faith, you're probably not going to have tolerance. When you don't have religious faith, you're probably not going to have patriotism, at least if your country is good. And so when you see the decline of one, specifically faith, and the values that it brings, it's going to decrease everything along with it. And I say on my show often, I probably said it on this show too, that, and we say, politics is downstream from culture. I always add that culture is downstream from spirituality / morality. And when you don't have faith in something that's bigger than yourself that can dictate to you what morality is, you come up with your own, and your own can change very, very quickly. And that's what we're seeing in this poll, is that morality, because it's not anchored in anything anymore, it's just changing with the wind direction. And we're going to continue to see that. We're actually seeing the fruit of that now. It's going to get worse before it gets better. Hopefully it does get better. That all of these things that you're seeing basically dissolve and fall apart is because people don't have principles anymore. They don't have principles because they're not looking to anything bigger than themselves, and they're just blown along with whatever the world is telling them.
Well, and to me, it also ties into one other element, and that is our laws and our legal system are a reflection of values. So the laws that are enacted and the way that laws are enforced is a reflection of values. I don't need to go any further than to show you Kim Gardner. Right now, her enforcement of the law, or her lack thereof of legal enforcement, is a reflection of her value system, which says anyone who prosecutes an African American is wrong. Anyone African American who's been prosecuted has been wrongly prosecuted, and therefore my values are to prosecute as few crimes as possible in order to make up for the racial imbalance that's occurred over time. That's her value system. And her value system is right now being reflected in the way laws are not being enforced in the city of St. Louis. And the result of that, we're seeing, of course, is the spike in crime. So it's amazing that the change of our values impacts not just what we believe, but what we do, how we live, and how we interact with others.
It impacts everything.
It truly does. And you zeroed in on something, Ryan, a moment ago that I want to come back to, because you mentioned that the lack of spirituality, or in particular, the lack of faith, because spirituality could be an Oprah spirituality, but a lack of Judeo-Christian faith values, as those diminish, you said that tolerance also diminishes.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because the left says if you're a person of faith, you are intolerant.
The exact opposite is true, because if you truly believe, and that's not to say that there aren't Christians who are intolerant. Duh. There are people that don't exemplify the faith or any other belief system that are a part of anything. But if you don't have this belief that your God is the greatest thing, well, if you stand on that and you really believe that, whatever comes at you really doesn't have to bother you. So you can tolerate anything because you believe, well, what I have is the best thing. So anything that comes at it doesn't necessarily shake me off my pedestal, if you want to put it that way, because I feel as if my faith is stronger than whatever else would come along. So you're not afraid of other ideas, therefore you're more tolerant.
Right. And I think it was Aristotle said the mark of an educated mind is the ability to entertain a thought without accepting it. And we're in a situation now in this society where people are afraid of hearing the opposing view.
Yes.
When they hear the opposing view, they want to shout it down, they want to yell it, they want to throw people out. You cannot say that. That's hate speech. That's hurtful. That's this, that's that. They just won't ever hear it. And that means to me that, like Ryan was saying, to me that tells me you aren't very confident in the foundation of what you believe, because if I can come in and say something that would shake that foundation, then maybe your ideas weren't as good as you thought they were to begin with.
Hannah, I want to come back to you, because from a social media perspective, how is it that you think social media, or our obsession with social media, how does that impact our ability to tolerate the thoughts and beliefs of others? How does that impact our willingness to tolerate beliefs or ideas with which we do not disagree.
Because you can filter what you see and what you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
You don't have to see other people's opinions if you don't want to. You can, if there's another side that you don't agree with, you can make your feed to you see things that you only agree with.
You can
And that
unfriend
makes
them.
us
You can
incredibly
unfriend someone.
selfish and shallow. I want to get to the YouTube poll really quick. It is asking, should Donald Trump's trial be televised, yes or no? I'll read some comments that we have from listeners before we get to the results. Dan Barlow from YouTube said, out of respect for President Trump, no, it should not be televised. Mary from YouTube said, yes, to televise the trial. History is history. Lee King from YouTube said, if Trump did what they are accusing him of and broke the law, the public should know and see. Not televising it proves they have something to hide. Let me get to some more comments really quick. Jackie S. says, Trump's trial should be televised. The media's filtered audio and video clips are proven to be untrustworthy. Instead, they love to distract us with the Depp and Paltrow trials. Grant says, it's already a clown show. It doesn't need to be political theater as well.
The
Lori
revolution will
Phelps
not be televised.
says, I voted yes. Can't trust the media to tell the truth of what happened. Really quick. Once again, the poll is asking, should Donald Trump's trial be televised, yes or no, with over 130 votes. 53% of the people said yes, it should be televised. 47% of the people say no, it should not be. So once again, a really close poll. What do we think?
Pretty evenly split. I think we all disagree. I would like to see it televised. Brad Young.
It would be fun to watch, but it would be an abomination to our legal system and to the rights of the defendants everywhere. So I would have to vote no.
I'm of the mindset that it should be televised because I just want it all laid bare. Let's show the whole world what Alvin Bragg's charges really were, and I just want to watch him have to defend that in front of everybody.
Well, hey, it's been great. I've got to sit in twice for Annie Frey this week. It's been a blast. Coming up after the break, of course, it's the Mark Reardon Show. You're going to want to stick around for that as well. And I will be talking to you next. The next time Annie's out, you'll see me again, Brad Young, sitting in for Annie Frey on 97.1 FM Talk.
Jules on Hampton in St. Louis Hills is paying some of the highest prices on gold.